What's up? Hey, this is another episode of UFO Garage.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Joe, and this is where we talk about UFOs, aliens, and all things weird. Hey.
What's up, dude?
Dude, not a lot, man. Not a lot. It's part two.
Part two.
Steve.
Chad and Alta, the OGs. They've been through so many. I mean, man, I've got so many messages and people reaching out to me, texting me, saying, "Man, your last episode, the part one, left people on a cliffhanger." And so many people have been reaching out, like, I can't wait to hear what else these people have to say. And yeah, dude, I'm excited that we have him back on this week.
Oh yeah, me too. Chad and Alta, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, how are y'all tonight? Thanks for having us back, man.
Awesome. Yes.
We're so happy. We are so happy to hear you.
Well, we're glad to have y'all back on for sure. This part two is gonna be a zinger, and like I said, if we gotta do part 3, part 4, whatever it takes, I want to hear the whole thing. So I know the last time that we spoke, we left off in this part of the story where you guys had just got to Louisiana. Y'all are in the French Quarter. Some weird things are happening. We know that, you have the voodoo stuff going on. And we had just kind of left off on this part where I guess y'all had this hot friend that used to always have roller skates on and stuff like that. And y'all had just finished like cleansing the house and things like that. So that's kind of where we're at now. So I would like to pick up right where we left off.
Well, awesome. Let's do it.
Awesome.
So, picking up from that point, Chad shared with you all last time his ghosty experience with the voodoo priest.
Yeah.
That we discover after the fact we're living in his specific apartment. And so if memory serves me, when we were closing the last chapter with y'all, it was now about my experience in the apartment. I use the word high strangeness for everything. It's just that term that seems to just cover anything that others might call weird or paranormal.
Right.
And so my word is high strangeness. So my high strangeness, mine started immediately, as Chad's did, with other people. All the terms, the psychological terms and so on, I've babied up the language, but just to kind of frame it, a lot of poltergeist kind of stuff going on, lots of trickstery stuff going on, like money, cash money, being disappearing.
Ooh.
and then reappearing in the weirdest of places, such as I'm dropping laundry on the bed after it's been dried, and I'm folding, and this cash that had disappeared prior, I don't know how long, all of a sudden falls out of a pocket. And again, to other folks that just might seem oh, you forgot or misplaced, but I'm talking about this was going on constantly. This kind of stuff.
And the money, it wasn't like it had been washed. It was nice and folded, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like it was all washed and everything.
Thank you, Chad. Exactly.
Because I was going to say, that's why my wife loves doing the laundry. She always finds my money.
But just a fast example, lots of this kind of stuff going on. Things disappearing and then coming back, sort of things. And but in this particular instance, it got much more dramatic for me on a personal level. It happened to be in the afternoon. Chad was at work. He worked on, as I often tell folks that know anything about New Orleans, on the famous Bourbon Street. At that time, he's in restaurant bar business. I happened to be home that afternoon. I'm not working. We mentioned our haughty little friend, the last go-round, that would rollerblade through the movie production companies going on in our courtyard.
Roller girl.
Roller girl, exactly. She, at the time, single, no kids, in her early 20s, mid-20s. I've got like 10, 15 years on her in age. but we're very tight. From the minute we meet, we had this very strong bond. And she's going to come over that afternoon. We're just going to do this kind of girls thing, hanging out in the apartment, having drinks and, having a little party. So she comes over there. Now, she's young, but she knows how to drink. And I'm not young, and I know how to drink. And in this scenario, we had a puppy. Chad and I've never had children, so our critters have always been fur babies, as they call it. We had an alligator.
My gosh.
I had a monkey back in the day. We've had lizards. And it wasn't the monkey lizard that we'll talk about later. It's a whole different scenario.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about the monkey lizard. Yes, that's in our notes too.
Yeah, the monkey lizard. So anyhow, at that point, Chad and I moving into the apartment, we have a half Rottweiler, half Doberman puppy. She's a year old or somewhere in that age range. We named her Neffy, short for Nefertiti. So she's Neffy. So Neffy's just a love bunny. She's just like me, like Chad. I mean, we're just love bunnies. So girlfriend's coming over. We're going to have a girl afternoon with drinks and just hanging out. So it's her and I and Neffy. That's it. That's all that's in the apartment besides the ghosties we can't see. I have a day bed in the living room. We had a day bed in the living room and furniture and so on. My regalia stayed in a corner on a mannequin. It was always in its highest form of, as far as I was always concerned, it was that probably my religion, if you will, is the notion of, again, the clothing, the moccasins, and I had the full, I have the full from top to bottom on a mannequin in the corner. So it was always in honor of my history and so on. With that sacredness going on in this very strange environment for us above that voodoo temple, by the time girlfriend gets over to the apartment, I remember coming in the house. We hadn't even had a drink yet. And we sit down to have what I remember is our first drink. And next thing I know, she's sleepy. She's got to go to sleep. What?
Whoa.
Okay. This is weird. But listen, if I love you, mi casa su casa. So, well, all right. Maybe she's had a hard night or whatever. She didn't seem that way, but, she changed. That's my point. When she got into the apartment, she needed a nap. So she's sitting on the day bed. She's a little tiny thing. She just goes sideways on the bed and then ends up almost like in a prone position, and she's not smooth out. Now she's snoring. She goes to sleep. I'm like, well, okay, some party this isn't.
Yeah.
I remember leaving her with my Neffy, my dog, and I'm going to go into the bedroom and just give her some privacy and wait for her to wake up or what the hey. So I remember going into the bedroom. I remember shutting the bedroom door. I remember sitting on the edge of our bed. And then the next thing I know, without anything in between, I'm back in my living room and I'm standing. Only this time around, as I'm taking in everything going on around me, that living room is my living room, but it looks ancient. It's dirty, but not filthy.
Whoa.
What I mean dirty is it's dusty and it's drab and it's tattered. That's very, just in that description. I'm taking that in because all of this is all happening so fast. As I'm standing there and like, what the? As I'm taking this in around me, my regalia is not there. I mean, I'm not seeing anything familiar. I just know I'm in my apartment.
Right. And that's why you were describing, like, I remember this was here, this was there, and like situations where things were. So what you're describing is like nothing that you had previously thought was in the place wasn't at this point?
And including girlfriend, daybed, and my Neffy. They're not there either.
Whoa.
It's just me, this very strange, kind of not dark, but shadowy, sort of filmy coloring around me, like a yellowish, filmy. Oh, it's so hard to describe. Again, everything is happening so fast. I'm taking this in and I'm like, oh, what? And by the time I'm like saying what, trying to process this, I feel somebody behind me. So I pivot. I'm right in the same position. I just pivot around, and there are 3 females that are all standing in a row, side by side. My best description is they are wearing tattered dresses. Their hair is crazy looking. They're African American. They're women of color. They are young. I would say late teens, 20-ish, feeling like I'm pushing the number. All 3 of them standing in a row have one of their arms reaching towards me. And they are the most beautiful in the sense of the feeling that I was receiving beings I'd ever been around. They were beautiful. I'm not talking about exterior. I'm talking about energy.
Yeah.
And they're all smiling. And these smiles I'm just enraptured in. And I start to move towards them with those arms extended at me. They're saying, we just want to touch you. We just want to touch you. And they're saying it in this melodic voice. Well, okay, I want to be touched. Because I don't know nothing. I'm just so happy all of a sudden. I'm not even questioning. I just start to move towards them. And before I could really take a step, I remember leaning that direction. Maybe I took a step. Again, everything's happening very fast. I have something else behind me now.
Ooh.
The other direction. I pivot back around, and we are so close. We're bosom to bosom. I'm kind of a larger girl now, and I got some girls. And this being, this female that's standing face to face with me, she's Caucasian looking, and she's dressed like the Virgin Mary. All the depictions you ever see about the Virgin Mary, if they're done in Caucasian form, is what I feel I am looking at, that I am in the presence of.
Right.
Wow.
She has her arms kind of in a motion. Now she's robed with veil, but I can see her face, and she's beautiful. And I'm just tripping. She's white. And again, I'm tripping. And, but again, I'm not consciously going through any of that. I'm just having this experience.
Yeah.
Now, because we are so close, her veiled arms or her robed arms are almost as if she's trying to hug me. Well, she doesn't have to worry about that because I'm leaning right into her. I just want her.
Yeah.
Because I'm in this, the language, I'm in a state of such happiness. I don't care. I'm not questioning anything. I lean into her, and I remember her whispering in my ear, and her words were very distinct. Now, this is where the story goes all nuts. Like the rest of it's not crazy. Sorry. The words that she whispered into my ear or said into my ear audibly in English, calling me by name, saying, Alta, you must get stable. Now, what?
Huh.
But again, I am not processing that.
Yeah.
I'm falling into eternity. There's no other way to describe it. As I leaned into her and she hugged me and she said, or at least that motion of hug, and uttered those words in my ear, I felt like, I just don't know how to describe these things. I felt like I was falling into eternity.
Whoa.
Crazy ass words, to be left.
Yeah, just kind of a sense of losing oneself or just falling into some kind of black hole of sorts.
Right.
Wow.
Language of you must get stable.
Yeah.
Alta, you must get stable. And she said it was such power.
Right.
Do you remember, do you remember like what she looked like? Was she wearing was there any color? Was it just like a bright, I mean, what was she wearing? I mean, was there any colors or anything like that?
I remember that the garments were dark. And dark is all that's coming to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm seeing dark blue. At one moment, I want to say like a very deep, deep, deep blue-black.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure of that. There's no glow to her. There's no light. if you will,
Yeah.
illuminating from her. She had a very beautiful Caucasian face, because that's all I could see
Right.
skin-wise. And she was white.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
It's kind of making me think, like, have you ever heard the Chris Bledsoe story?
I have.
Yeah, I mean,
In fact, the psychiatrist who did his regression
yeah,
came to my home and regressed me.
really,
interesting.
that's
Okay.
very interesting. Yeah, because I mean, he's had this kind of almost similar encounter of what they think could have possibly been the Virgin Mary.
Yeah. What's interesting is the defining factors of why we would, not we, but the experiencers who, I mean, you guys aren't the only ones. I mean, I've heard a couple other ones that,
Right.
Nothing to take away from your experience, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to connect the dots here. But like the Virgin Mary for some reason has been like an archetype with a lot of experiences, and it's
Right.
a lot of people have different distinctive qualities. Like you say, the shawl was a deep blue, maybe dark blue, dark shawl, obviously Caucasian.
Oh,
But
she was veiled and robed all the way down to the feet.
yeah,
I never saw feet. I didn't see a body because
Yeah.
she was completely
right.
robed.
And then you think of like the classic Virgin Mary is always like this light royal blue, right? Like
Right, yeah,
that's
yeah.
is that where you're going with that joke? It's
Yeah.
like you grew up Catholic, so I was thinking like, man, because the only reason I'm like digging into this, I think you are too, is like, man, what if Virgin Mary was an alien the whole time, or another a dimensional creature that shows up to people in this same archetype, you know?
Right.
Just
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about. I mean, I forgot who we were talking to, but they had said, they had asked, well, how come aliens just don't come and visit us? And whoever it was had said, well, because the last time an alien showed up and showed us everything he's got, we crucified him. And obviously we're interpreting that as like, well, Jesus could have possibly been this extra dimensional, like whatever we want to call it. But his mother obviously played a very important role in this whole thing. And, the Virgin Mary has appeared to a lot of people like throughout history. And it's like, it's trying to connect those dots on like, why does she, for some reason, show up to so many people,
Yeah.
It's very interesting. People always tell stories about angels and, maybe even God or whatever, but a lot of stories are dealing with the Virgin Mary specifically.
Yeah.
She's just made a lot of appearances.
Yeah. And then the words you have to get grounded. What did you take away from that, Alta?
I was my life up until then had been so chaotic, because there's much of our story we've not had opportunity to share with you from the very beginning. As much as we've shared with you, there's a whole section that we've never discussed. And
Part 16.
exactly. I mean, again, people, well, anyhow, just lots and lots of chaos in our life from the moment Chad and I got together. Tremendous chaos, and nothing we'd wish on anybody, not anybody. And so what I suggest is, what did I take away from that? I'm convinced, as egotistical as it may sound, because I don't feel I have an ego any longer. If I do, I can't account for it, not for everything we've been through. My suggestion is to know the whole story. One would say they're nuts. They have made all this up. They this, they that, and I don't want to waste all that energy. But the suggestion is, those words that were said to me, you must get stable. Anything lesser than who I was at that moment would have never survived, nor Chad. Anybody lesser than Chad and I, for what we had already been put through up until that point in time, would have never, I'm convinced, survived. And when you know the whole story, it really makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And I realize it's difficult because there's a whole section that we didn't discuss because, again, time. And it's a whole nother ball game. That part of the story is a whole nother ball game. And so I'm only left with that perception. So
Yeah.
as this is happening to me, my take on, for instance, those females, those black females.
Right. So you have three females, and then the virgin. Basically, let's just call her Mary, just for time's sake, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
Maria.
yeah.
We'll just call her, right. And so, because she never once said anything other than what I repeated to you.
Wow.
Everything else was my impression, my perception, my feeling. But those three females, those black females that started this little story, I kept taking out of it, and I'm still not sure, but I always felt as if I'd gone through some kind of crazy ass time slip, and that I was standing in that apartment when it was created 300 years prior.
Wow.
And that those females were slaves that may have lived and died on that property. And I assure you that whoever they were, whatever that was, I was in a state of bliss with them, because they were blissful. That's the only way to describe it.
Whoa. Wow. So you go from kind of this era of, we have this trickster, and you guys have experienced some poltergeist activity, and now to this kind of beautiful experience. That's interesting.
Right. That felt very much again like we were experiencing that property in its totality.
Yeah.
Right. So
what a wide gradient to have.
Exactly. And so that, that's that experience, if you will. Coming out of that experience, I've tried so hard to remember. I don't remember where my friend ended up. I don't remember waking up. I just know that life got on from that moment on. And again, we were having these very strange experiences. One more we can share with you about that property in particular, before we move into, other stuff that was happening to us. As we mentioned in our first visit with y'all, we were telling you they made a lot of movies on that property.
Yeah.
Using the courtyard for all the voodoo, purposes. And I'm not sure if other kinds of movies made there, what have you. But so one night Chad and I are sleeping. We're up in our little bedroom in that dead voodoo priest's apartment, I want to mention again. Right. And I'm smelling smoke, like fire. Well, we'll just mention that's the last thing you want to smell in the French Quarter, because everything's attached, and it's cold, and it's wood. A lot of it wood. You just don't want a fire in the quarter. And but I'm smelling smoke, so I'm waking Chad up because I got a good sniffer, and he's just basically telling me I'm dreaming. Go back to sleep. Okay. So I try to do that. Maybe I even drifted off a second, speeding the story up. Next thing I know, not only am I smelling smoke, I see white smoke coming in our apartment. Now I got his attention. Now we're hauling ass out of that apartment. We're on the second story. We're down those stairs. We're out in the courtyard yelling, fire, fire, with the fire alarm. Priestess comes out. We got all those slave quarters that have been converted into efficiency apartments. Got all those folks. Everybody's coming out of their place, right? We're all now in this.
Our next door neighbor, he came out. Now, we've only seen him once or twice.
Because we were sure he was a ghost.
Yeah, it was weird, because you would
weird as everything else.
See him every once in a while.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I never saw him. I was sure Chad was crazy and we had a ghost over there. So he even comes out as we're yelling this fire story. Okay. So we're all now standing in the courtyard, and
and the voodoo priest, she comes out.
Priestess comes out, yeah.
Now I believe she pretty much kept the back door open that goes into the temple.
From the courtyard.
From the courtyard, not the front door, but
we were surrounded in huge iron gates with great big locks.
Yeah.
And
so the courtyard was all open. Back door to the temple open.
A lot of the buildings in Louisiana in that area, I mean, their driveways, and how you get in is you go through gates to the center of the property, and then you go in the buildings, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the reason that is taxes. They taxed, like, if you had a front yard, they would tax you more.
Oh.
So they put the houses and the buildings right on the sidewalk, and then had the like, courtyard in the back where you wouldn't have to pay like the taxes for having a front yard.
Very interesting. Sticking it to the man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Right.
it's the same. I wonder if it's the same way in Guatemala. It's the same layout in Guatemala. It's all like fences, or all the buildings are right up to the sidewalk, and all the courtyards are like in the middle of the property.
Yeah,
Which
that's
I think
interesting.
is super cool. I love that the style.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's great for privacy too. I mean, you could just, lose yourself out there.
Yeah.
So we look over to the towards the temple, and we see this smoke coming out. So the priestess and I go into the temple. I think everybody else pretty much stayed outside. About this time, the weather just changed.
If I might interject, not only was smoke coming out of the temple, it was billowing.
Yeah, it was bellowing.
We're
out of the
talking
temple.
about white billowing smoke coming
But we
out of
don't
that
see
temple.
like a big fire
Right,
or
we don't see
light
no fire,
or anything. There's no light or anything coming from a fire in the
So
inside.
Chad, he's about to describe to you when he goes in there, but I'm on the outside because I don't go in the temple. It's a tiny little place. That temple was tiny, and it's got altars everywhere. There's not a lot of room in there.
Yeah.
So I'm out in the courtyard with all the folks that we've been yelling, fire, fire. So we're all standing there. And as Chad said, the weather changed instantly. It changed instantly. Now, this is late nighttime. 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, black got blacker, black on black.
Wow.
And it was as if a movie was going on, like those movie production companies with the lights. Something is like,
cue the thunder.
yeah, hit the lightning. And I mean, we were having no rain, there was no water, but we were having thunder and lightning striking all around us, just like a freaking movie set. I can't
That's
make it up.
Crazy.
If I wouldn't have experienced, I'd never believed listening to somebody say this that wasn't
Yeah.
on some kind of acid. Chad is now going in that temple, that billowing white smoke coming out with that priestess. And Chad, what did
Yeah,
you see?
and we see nothing. There's no
see
fire, but I
nothing.
mean,
There's no fire.
the room is just full of smoke.
Right. No fire.
So about that time, here comes the fire department, and there's must be like 10 firemen.
10 to 15 big boys.
Yeah,
No
and
exaggeration.
So they come in the front door.
Big
off-
boys love it.
Big boys.
Yeah, they
We're
come in
scared
off the
shitless to
street.
come to that temple.
Yeah,
Everybody's
So-
scared of that temple.
so they come in, and they see the smoke,
Yeah.
and like we're looking around, and I mean,
There's no fire.
she's got candles lit and everything like that, but everything seems normal. Now, again, like Alta
Whatever
said
that
earlier,
means.
there's altars all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, she had just made this one altar, or the day or two before.
Mhm.
It was her and
The dead priest.
priest's wedding anniversary. So she had his tuxedo up on the wall, kind of tacked to the wall, and her wedding dress tacked to the wall, and then depictions of the saints and Jesus and all that, and then like this kind of semi
And Mary.
circle,
Mhm.
kind of where the
Altar was.
where the altar and all the candles and all the juju stuff and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So I get to looking at it real close, and I see one of the candles was out, and there was a crack down the jar, as in one of those kind of tall jar candles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what had happened is it got so hot it cracked, and then the wax and all caught fire. All these, trinkets and stuff, I'm sure there was fabric and paper or whatever. It had traveled kind of towards the wall. It went up the wall just a little bit, and it stopped the depictions of the saints were probably, maybe 2-3 foot, from the floor, on the wall.
Yeah.
It stopped right there at those
the saints.
depictions. At the saints.
Wow.
Dude.
Right above that was his suit and her wedding dress.
Right.
If it would have caught that, that cloth on, especially her wedding dress. I mean, it would have probably burned the
Try to imagine cartoonish
down.
how fast 15 big firemen got out of that place.
Yeah,
they were gone.
Yeah,
they were gone.
I bet. I would assume like those firemen would like just assume let the thing burn. They were tired of it, probably.
Yeah. And they were gone. Like, we gotta go.
I think they asked her, "Do you mind putting the candles out for tonight?" And she goes, "No. That sounds like a great idea."
But we're talking about smoke billowing out of this thing. It looked like the whole quarter was going to go down, without exaggeration.
Wow! So this
top that weather experience was so bizarre. That lightning and thunder, as if somebody, and it was just around us. It wasn't across, New Orleans skyline.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy.
That's pretty interesting. So, do you guys think that the fire, it's stopping before the saints and the wedding dress and the tuxedo and stuff? I mean, do you guys think that there is some sort of high strangeness that stopped this fire?
It seems to me, because I mean, there was no really reason for it to go out, because there was plenty of stuff for it to travel on up the wall with.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And it's just like the fire goes and then it reaches this holy place that she's set up, and then it puts the fire out.
Yeah.
The power of the hoodoo.
Yeah.
It's got me thinking, like, they were, whatever they're practicing, it must be protected in some way. Like, maybe that dress and that suit was, I don't know. I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Did the priestess seem like worried at all? Was she like, "Oh no, I need to go get all my stuff," or was she just kind of come out and like kind of okay with it?
I would not say okay under any terms, but she had a lot of secrets, and we won't get into any of that.
Yeah.
So who knows what about what? But she struck me, in my impression of what I could see, as somebody very disturbed about what was going on.
Huh. Wow. Okay. Dang. That's super interesting. Wow.
And did you all do your book report?
A little bit.
All right.
The stuff that y'all sent us about the people that moved in after you guys, that was wild.
Right. 10 years after we lived there.
Man.
It was 10 years after we lived there in that apartment. The Zach and Addie story.
Yes.
Leave it to most folks if they're interested in exploring that, because there's lots of information out there. But the Ghosty Boys, or one of the Ghosty Boys, and this female that he hooked up with, I think her name Katrina, one of the Ghosty Boys out of those three original Ghosty Boys that, Zach, I think his name is Zach Bagan.
Yeah.
Has this,
But the one that broke away from him, the one that was in the beginning, is...
Oh, yeah.
Years ago.
The Ghost Hunter guys?
Yeah.
Well, there's, all these names and all these groups, but these three young guys in particular, I think the lead dude's name's Zach, his buddy is Aaron, and I think they're still together. And back in the day, there was a third partner who broke away from them. Then he started his own TV show. He and this chick named Katrina, interestingly enough, went to our apartment to do one of these shows that was on television, to go see if they could connect with the Zach Addie story. And they discovered all kinds of other stuff going on in that apartment that we always known about, because that apartment is alive. I mean, there was never any doubt to us that apartment was alive in terms of all the unseen. Don't know how to identify it, not into all that language, just knowing what we've experienced there. So, that Zach and Addie story is mind-blowing. It's devastating and it's mind-blowing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you guys like encountered some creepy stuff, and like, it sounds like y'all had some like weird things happening. Their experience definitely didn't seem like a Virgin Mary happy story at all.
I'm thinking for the listeners, can we do like a 30-second cap of what happened with the Zach and Addie story? Can we shorten it so we kind of are all on the same
same page?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Zach and Addie move into our apartment 10 years after we lived there. They happened to live there during Katrina, the Katrina disaster. They became famous because they refused to leave. They refused to abandon ship.
Yeah.
When everybody was being ordered out, they weren't going.
They stayed.
Now, they stayed. Now, on the truth level, as we've always tried to, offer everything we understand, excuse me, about our experiences and people we know having experiences. They were a young couple. Dude was from up north originally. He's extremely tall. He was like, I talk about Chad tall. Chad's 6'1", 6'2". This dude was like close to, I don't know, 6'8", 6'9", 6'10". He's a very tall dude. And he's a young guy who had served over in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
He got out of the service. He ends up in New Orleans. He gets involved in the bar business. He's a good, now the short story is they're both very good drunks, alcoholic, drug, bartender, barmaid,
Nightlife.
people. That's right.
Yeah.
They got this heavy love story going on. Now she's teeny. The reason I express his height, he's extremely tall, warrior from Iraq, so on and so forth. She's a little tiny thing that I understand was meaner than cat shit. She could have turned anybody inside out and upside down. From our understanding, we have girlfriends that were bartenders there,
Wow.
and you have to almost have that kind of quality
Yeah.
to navigate Bourbon Street or the Quarter. So anyhow, she's one of those kind of characters. So she's a tough little thing. And they seem to be this perfect match. To hear anybody talk about them, it's craziest wild love story. Keep in mind, again, they don't got kids. They don't answer to nobody. They doing their own thing. As I said, they got famous because they refused to leave. So
And
when
they were doing a lot of help with like people that didn't
That's
have
right.
food.
That's right. For the folks that were still
find-
there.
Yeah.
That nobody hears about in the news. So they're becoming heroes also in that regards. But also take note, the Quarter is shut down. Everything is done and dead on the surface. But they got access, because they're in the Quarter, they got access to all the booze. They got access to all the drugs. They got access to anything they need,
Yeah.
because there's, that world is still happening.
And what do you
there.
do when the lights go out?
Yeah, what do you do when the lights go out? That's right. So apparently it sounds
Drugs
like
and
they
booze.
had a really good time for, several weeks while the Quarter was shut down and what appeared to be dead. They're living it up. And then all of a sudden, as I understand it, life came back, lights came back on, and their reality came back to a reality of a different world than what they had been living. Like Mad Max, it's no longer necessarily, even though it's still Mad Max.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, now, again, I know you said 30 seconds. The bottom line is...
That's totally fine.
Dudes ends up on top of one of our snotty hotels in the middle of the Quarter. You've got to pay a lot of money to, stay in one of those places. He goes to the top of this hotel, and they have a bar up there, and he goes up there to drink his little sorrows away, or whatever the case may be. We'll fill in the blanks. And after he parties up there, he walks off the edge of it and commits suicide.
Whoa.
My understanding is it's still daylight. He hits, and not sounding so graphic, but literally he has put a note in his pocket that he's pre-written before he's done this, that he's telling the cops, the detectives, to go to our apartment by number, so on, and they're going to discover what they're about to go discover that they're not prepared to go discover.
Yeah.
And what they discover is when they get to that apartment, there's blood all over the walls, feces and all kinds of, you name it, apparently all over the walls of that apartment.
Very strange.
She
stuff
had been
written.
dead for 12 days. He killed her, left her in our bathtub for 12 days, turned up the air conditioner, and partied for 12 days, losing his mind after he killed her. And then our understanding is he cut her up into pieces.
Yeah.
So when the cops got there, when the detectives got there, part of her's cooking on our stove. Part of her is in our refrigerator and
In the oven.
In the oven. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yep.
Holy shit.
I told you, man. Yeah, that's
What the
it gets
fuck?
nuts.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Because no matter what Chad and I experienced in that apartment, ours, as I describe it, poltergeisty, like trickstery, playfulness.
Yeah.
You know, the fear that I ever experienced is just because you can't go through any of this and not have some kind of fear associated with
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But evil,
And-
I never detected.
And
That I did not detect.
I'm like,
Exception of some of the living people who live there, but certainly not that.
And I think this has to deal with like why, the Mary came to Alta. You got to be stable.
You gotta
because
get
you
stable.
have to be stable and for
To
me
live in that place.
to
oh
pull
shit.
out the burn,
Or New Orleans.
to pull out the burn and go, hey, if you have a weak constitution,
Mhm.
Mm.
you don't need to be in
That's right.
in that apartment.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You have to be
Pretty
strong
amazing.
or not let it affect you.
Plus, New Orleans is the crescent city.
Oh yeah.
It's shaped like a crescent moon with the Mississippi River as our boundary, as our border.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're right on the water. And as we said before, below sea level. And all that conductiveness and so on. So I just would like to say, the book that was written about that, I think we remembered it. It's called Shake Off the Devil. Author came out of New York City, moved himself to New Orleans, and really threw himself into the story. But the sadness I discovered about, I haven't even read the book. Chad bought it.
Read
I didn't
part of
even
it.
want the book
Yeah.
because we'd already lived craziness in that apartment,
Yeah.
what
yeah.
have you. But ours, I never, as I said, we had some evilness expressed to us from the humans, the living humans.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything dark or evil.
Whew. I've got to believe that, like, I mean, I don't know what type of drugs they were on, but like if you leave your mental state in if you stay up for multiple days in a row, like people can go
Right.
crazy just off of no sleep. Well, if you introduce drugs or, cocaine or meth or I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
just,
Right.
let your imagination run wild with that. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, well then also you add on top of that, the third thing is poltergeist activity and
That's
the
right.
possibility of an evil spirit reaching in through this. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say it, that there's a freaking portal there. There's got to be some kind
Oh
of,
yeah.
there's got to be some doorway
Total
that,
agreement.
yeah.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you have that open doorway on top of that, and there's a reason why Native Americans called spirits, right? Like,
Totally. Absolutely.
Right.
Joe, I think you were the one that told me about that.
Yeah.
About this
Absolutely.
letting your body and your mind kind of let these spirits into your psyche. I mean, you add all that up, the alcohol, the booze, the drugs, and then poltergeist activity, and then this doorway of who knows what can walk through that thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right.
So I believe if I understood correctly, again, we have the book. We loaned it to somebody, and I don't think it's quite made it back to us. I think we left it in New Orleans when we left there a couple months ago. But what little I was seeing about the book, I was disappointed because dude has written this whole huge book about this story. It's a big one. They're making lots of movies out of this. I mean, talk about movie of the week. But what I was detecting from this is he wasn't seeing nothing paranormal, high strangeness about any of this. He was wrapping it all up to dude had PTSD from Iraq.
Right.
And, well, so be it. Nobody's saying that's not true.
Right.
Could be.
But again, what about us and what about people like us who've had these insane experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one person's perspective. I mean, that when you roll in like, oh well, he's a trusted source because he was a part of the military, doesn't really. I mean, for
It doesn't
me,
account for the voodoo priestess,
Yeah.
the area, the all the extra stuff that's happening. And I guess I don't know. Like, I haven't read the book, so I don't know if he goes into any of the poltergeisty type stuff in the book. He doesn't. So I mean, it's a very disingenuous, portrayal of what happened.
That was why I stopped reading it. I went through it looking for this information, And no, that wasn't there. Everything seemed to be sized up to PTSD, and I just thought, well, this is sad. This is sad.
Let's leave it open to the possibility that at one point maybe there was some of that in the original manuscript, and maybe the publisher just wouldn't allow it. I mean, that's a possibility too. We just don't know.
Absolutely.
Yep. We don't know how that goes.
We wrote a little book, and it all got wheedled down to, a portion of our true story. So we understand that.
Yeah. Man.
And then, so after this, 10 years after we lived there, the Zach and Addie happened. 10 years after Zach and Addie, they had another fire there, and it pretty much gutted the whole building.
Our apartment caught on fire. It gutted it.
Both the upstairs apartments.
We had just moved back to that area. We'd been gone for 20 years. Or how many years? I can't remember right now. I'm not good with math. We had been gone many, many years. We returned. We left there in 2001, Louisiana. We returned in 20. Help me, Chad. 16. And we were there a short amount of time after being gone all those years, 15 years. And all of a sudden, our apartment's on fire, and the temple is pretty gutted. It's over. Dang. And it was crazy. It was crazy because it happened right after we returned. Not anything to do with Chad and Alta, but again, just as people call it coincidental, and I say, no, I'm pretty sure that doesn't exist. But whatever one wants to call it. Yeah.
Hey, little side note. If you guys ever met a publisher that would be willing to produce the entirety of the book that y'all originally wrote, would y'all ever think about re-releasing that?
Oh, that was the first thought, and that never leaves us ever. So
Very
that would be an absolute yes. Yes, absolutely yes.
Doesn't Jimmy
because
Goodall...
everything we're sharing with you all has been, lovingly, I might add, and I say that because I was told maybe I talk too much, maybe we talk too much. People get bored, so on and so forth. They're only interested in that particular event that took place and that we're getting up to, that we're leading into in 1997. And I'm like, really? All the rest of this really means nothing? That's just because everything we've shared with you for the most part has been cut out of our story, out of our book.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to think that most of our listeners enjoy the details. I mean, everybody that
they love it.
Yeah. So don't ever feel like you should have to contain yourself to the high points and stuff. I mean, I know me and Joe love hearing the details, and that's why we've enjoyed talking to you guys so much. Is because we don't have to ask you to go into detail, and that's where you really get the
don't have to ask.
Yeah. Well, also it's like. Not a lot of times, but you can hear someone's story and either they're not willing to go into detail because they're afraid that you're going to sound crazy or they're going to sound crazy, or they go into too much detail and it's like, oh, we're boring you to death. So it's like this happy medium. I feel like you guys are really good storytellers, and so you guys are on a great line here. And I mean, I wouldn't be getting text messages about, hey, when's the second part coming out? So,
yeah. Well, we're just so appreciative, and again, to me, the idea of having the opportunity, to be public with this, because we didn't go public originally because we chose to. We were asked to, and we trusted. And then, we discovered at that point, we got to get on with it because we're already out there. We've already been outed somewhat out of trust. Well, okay, we're not lying. We're not making nothing up. We are expressing exactly as we've experienced. And so we've just continued this story because I have to tell you, I get bored very easily in life, bored very easily, and I don't find us boring. Maybe I'm just crazy or whatever. Maybe I really am. But
I am entertained.
Yeah. No, I understand that completely. Because after 10 minutes of something, I'm bored. And that's why we did this podcast, is because it's the one thing that is not boring all the time.
Nor are either of you guys. We've done this a lot, and and I never made it up.
Yeah, y'all
We
are
had
one
the-
of my top, our top five. I'm
I
sure.
mean, really top
Awesome.
five.
Oh, yeah.
Chad, that's hysterical. He's being so funny. Yeah. So grateful for this experience and to be able to express ourselves. So as we're having this happen to us, and then as we mentioned, the Zach Addy business, back to us again, moving our story forward if you're up for it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Certainly, if there's any more questions about Zach and Addie, I think we've, kind of highlighted it as best as we can.
I want to hear what I want to get. I mean, I'm not putting any pressure on it, but I want to hear about the lizard monkey. if we can get that.
That's coming down the road now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still in the apartment, but things have not gone well between Chad and Alta and the Voodoo priestess. It's gotten very uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable. And we're ready to move on in life.
Yeah.
We'd like to move into the quarter, come from the outskirts and move in. We've worked very hard to establish ourselves there. Chad's doing quite well. Now, Chad is now becoming an entrepreneur. He's doing his own thing. He's starting a little cleaning business, and he's just doing all kinds of...
Yeah, they work on the courtyards because everybody, everybody had a courtyard. So I loved working, out in the gardens and fountains and all that kind of stuff.
Hell yeah.
Chad's starting to do his own thing. I happen to be, I hesitate even mentioning, but it seems important to the story. I happen to be a reader, a professional reader. I didn't want to ever acknowledge in my lifetime that I had abilities. That was my mother's love about me because my mom had none. Her definition.
Right.
She knew she used to call me very strange, but she loved that strangeness about me. And so, once we land in the quarter, I'm in the land of. So they call it the Big Easy. The quarter, New Orleans, called the Big Easy. Well, it's not. But if you find your niche, you fall into that groove, and it can be very productive. And next thing I know, I didn't ask for it. It got handed to me to become a professional reader. So I don't want to get into all that because I've never, not one time, ever used our experiences in any opportunity we've been given to be public, to ever make money off of this, because that's never been our interest. Our interest is to share honestly what is happening to us. So I just so happen to become a reader, and I'm good. That's just all there is to it. I'm good enough I'm the only reader picked to be in a book about New Orleans, written by a journalist with the Washington Post. She thought enough of me to do this. Right.
Awesome.
That was crazy. That was just crazy. Okay, I'll take it. So at this stage of our lives, we're coming along. I've got some attention I didn't ask for, but it came to me, and I'm becoming kind of known. No big deal. No celebrity, just known. Chad's doing quite nicely for himself. We're coming along well. We're making a comfortable life. At this time now, we can afford to live a much more comfortable life.
Not in a haunted apartment.
Well, it got weirder.
Well, I think they're all haunted.
Use that word. I mean, you don't move up, you move out in dealings with these hauntings and so on. Okay, but the creepy. Here's some more creepy. The creepy. This is the shit that really I've had a very hard time wrapping my brain around. All the rest of it's just weird. Okay, so
oh shit.
Right. So I take employment. I become a contractor with a family-owned business in the French Quarter. They've been in business since 1929. When I say the family, they ran it like a little mafia. They were the family. Mm-hmm. And they kept it tight. They kept everything tight within the family. Started their business in 1929. They had 2 shops in the quarter. They'd been 70 years by the time I came on board. So that's who I go to work for, because they're working with everybody and anybody that's out in the world. So we got everything from celebrity all the way down to, just anybody who's walking in to get a reading, tourism.
And they like to make some pasta sometimes, get a nice little pairing with some wine here and there, maybe some garlic here and there.
You know them well. That's right. That's right. And so that's who I go to work for. So I call it's a salon. They started off as a tea house back in 1929. They served tea and little sandwiches, little to the socialites who had all the money that didn't live in the quarter. They'd have their drivers. Now we're talking 1929, so some of them were carriages. Bring them into the quarter. They'd drop them off at the front door. Everybody'd see all these socialites coming into the shop to get their tea and crumpet, but they'd slip off into a back room and get a reading. And then they'd slip out a back door, because back in the day it was illegal, even in New Orleans, to do readings.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't know that thing was ever illegal.
I know. It was.
Quakers, bro.
That's right. So they doing it all, they doing it all like this. Okay, so this is who I went to work for. Well, the minute that I come on board in this shop, there's a female that is, she dresses very expensive, and she's flowing around the shop like she's one of the family members. They got a lot of family between the two shops, running these shops. So I'm thinking she looks like, not necessarily physically, but her actions, her
attitude.
She's more of a snob than any of them. So I'm thinking she got to own this business. There's a lot of people for me to get to know. Well, her name, I'll just say her first name was Jo. So when we first meet, I'm not aware of who she is. I just know she sets up my appointments. She's, setting my schedule, so on and so forth. Each time that I'm around her, she gives me the effing creeps. Now, I don't get that a lot with a lot of people, because, again, I'm a friendly kind of sort until you give me a reason differently.
Yeah.
But with her, it was never comfortable.
Yeah.
And this is how it went down. I'll try to speed that story up. I kept saying to her periodically, I know you. I know you. How do I know you? Her response to me originally is, of course you do. Everyone does. Just a very narcissistic kind of response.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, no, I don't get into that. So we got something else going on here. Well, okay. Come to find out, she just hired help. She ain't nobody. She just hired help. She has that air about her.
Yeah.
So when I discover this, next thing I'm discovering is trying to speed that story up. I never physically knew her, but this is what we discovered. She moved to New Orleans from a little place in Virginia that nobody's ever heard about. Okay? That little place had a population of several hundred. Tiny place up in the middle of Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains. That's where this woman moved from. So I find out her last name, and then I find out where she's moved from. Chad and I lived there.
Why does that sound familiar? Blue Ridge Mountains. Yeah.
Yeah. Chad's mother, grandmother, and uncle and other family members lived in that little tiny community up in the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Wow.
Okay.
Chad and I moved there the year after we got married in 1991. We're now into 92. Somewhere in that time frame, we go there because Chad has a grandma that's got Alzheimer's, and his mother had to work. So we moved there, got a big, beautiful Victorian home, lots of space, lots of room. We moved there to help care for Nanny and start our own business and just try to get on with life. Well, we stayed there about a year or so, and then we decided to leave there and join my mother in Louisiana. I mentioned that the first go round when we first visited with you all. My mom moved to Louisiana, invited us to move there.
Yeah.
So we decided to go. Well, that story prior to that is we're living in Virginia in this little tiny town that I thought nobody had ever heard of before.
Huh.
When I'm talking to this Jo character, we find out she's from there. That's where she's from.
Whoa.
Now, what's real crazy is she married the money of the town, and her last name, I won't say it, but her last name is all over that town. Her last name is the library,
The funeral home,
the Moose's Lodge,
Moose Lodge.
the funeral home, the grocery stores. The man she married, they own that town. Now, that's her last name, and she held on to the last name after she divorced this guy. Okay.
So what's she doing in Louisiana?
What she's doing in Louisiana is she lost 200 pounds or got surgery, She changed, obviously, dramatically from being, a plus size to a skinny mini. And she's going through her second stage of life. At this time we meet her, she's late 40s, somewhere in that age range. She's got her kids grown. She's divorced. She moves to New Orleans, apparently to the Quarter in particular, because she was an amazing seamstress, an amazing costume maker. So she got involved with the movie companies.
Cool.
And was making herself a small little fortune on the side. Well, when times were rough, she's now working in my shop, and I'm thinking she's the owner, and she's just operating this shop. Okay. So I tell you that background because I knew the minute I was around her, it was familiar. Now, that was just creepy in itself. Okay. So then when we find out we got this weird small town history, like, oh, this is, and for me, it felt creepy. I wasn't feeling necessarily relieved by all of this. Okay. Now, I make it clear to her and anybody that will hear me, we got to have a new home. We have got to leave that temple. We can't stay there any longer. It feels dangerous, and we need to move. And we need to move. She is managing a building in the middle of the Quarter, the heart of the Quarter, right where everybody wants to live, and you pay a lot of money to live. Like you see these things on television with people on their balconies and they're throwing the beads out and all the parades going on.
Boobs.
That's where she's living. And she's not owning that building. She manages it for the man that owns it.
She kind of subletted the whole.
She sublet it. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. The dude that owned it was this lovely veterinarian who'd been, New Orleans probably 300 years, his family line, blue blood.
Oh, cool.
And he gave her, pretty much the rights to do with that as she pleased. Put in there anybody you like, just long as whatever. Okay, she decides it's going to be us. Yay. We're going to move. We moving uptown. So
all right. We think, right?
You think, exactly. So she's going to move up to the penthouse, to the top of the building, and we're going to take over her apartment. All right. So before she can get all her stuff out of there, moved upstairs, we tell her, don't worry about it. It's just Chad and Alta, and we're all kind of little family now. We'll help you. Don't worry about anything, because we just want to get moved in.
Come get it whenever you want,
So Chad and I are over there one afternoon before we get moved in, as we're getting ourselves kind of sized up and what are we moving into. Let me just say this without taking up a whole lot of time. It was unbelievable what we were moving into. We're coming out of a small apartment above the Voodoo temple on the outskirts of the community. We're now moving into a suite that we had a chandelier in our bathroom.
Damn.
We had a chandelier in our living room. We had Louis the something furniture from one end of that house to the end. Our bed looked like something out of a castle. I cannot exaggerate. We had a small, grand piano that came with the apartment.
The door handles, were they made of crystal? Like that clear, it was a glass?
I mean, absolutely close enough. When I'm telling you a crystal chandelier in your bathroom, I mean,
yeah,
that's a shiny shine.
That's super cool. Anytime you have a chandelier where you have to take a shit, like that you made it.
Exactly. We knew we'd made it. Right. Awesome. As soon as I saw that chandelier in the bathroom. Okay, so that just kind of painting that picture of a gilded cage. Let me say that. That's what we moved into. So before we move into it, she's got boxes of her stuff in the living room, all kind of just thrown in and stacked and so on and so forth. Well, when we walked in, I'm about to admit, people just hate this part of me, and I hate this part of me of what I did, but I sure did do it, and I don't lie. When we walked in there, we saw this box of books. Well, at the top of that box of books is what looks like a diary or some kind of notebook with a little latch on it. Let's see. Did I mention diary? Okay.
Did you read it?
Just like I told you all, that I told you when the minute I smelled her, I knew her. That's exactly what I felt about that book. that diary looking thing at the top of that box of books. I felt like I was in it. I told Chad, as I got closer to it, I just know I'm in this book. I just know it. Well, Chad's pretty sure I'm nuts.
Whoa,
at this stage, with everything we've
Why
been
would
through.
she write about you?
Yeah,
Alta?
really. Do you hear me? I'll get quiet, Chad. Repeat that. Why would she write about you, Alta? Right. Okay. So that pissed me off. And so I sure did. And he stood right there and saw it with me. He can say whatever he wants. I did it. Now, I don't do these things. I'm not that kind of person.
I'd read it. I'd read it in a heartbeat.
And I'll tell you what, Alta started on the first pages.
Oh,
She's sure
my
in the F
God.
did. She sure in the F did.
What?
When I opened it, and he's over my shoulder because he's taller, you know, I see my name. Now, Alta, the only other I'd ever heard of was his grandfather, who's dead. She has written my name, and now I can't stop. I'm going through these pages, and she's talking about me like I'm some lover, like she's in love with me. Now I'm effing flipping out.
She was talking about your grandpa, dude.
That's it. Yeah, I like that. We'd like to think that. Because
Sorry.
as I'm turning the pages, all this flowy, really beautiful writing, very beautiful penmanship and flowy language starts to get erratic. And you can tell with each page that's turning, she's losing her fucking mind as she's writing about me.
Is it
And she is
erotic or erratic?
erratic. She becomes erratic. I'm talking about she writes like she is going full-blown nuts. Like she's going nuts. Like psychotic.
Ooh.
And it goes from this beautiful writing. Chad's looking at me because he's shaking his head because it's just so bizarre to repeat this. She's become so erratic in her writing, so scribbly. We don't even know what the shit she's saying anymore. But what I remember reading is that she is following me. She is following me around the quarter. She's talking about, she's pacing me. She's following me. And she's describing where I'm walking, where I'm turning. And I'm like, well, I slammed that book shut so fast. And I'm like, oh, what the? Just like everything else.
Yeah.
Like dude with horn. Like, what the? This doesn't happen to people. Okay. Well, it did. It sure did.
Do you think she followed you from the town? Like she knew that y'all had moved to Louisiana?
Sorry for asking. Sorry, and thank you so much for asking that because what I left out was what we discovered. She moved there 7 years before she left that small town 7 years before we moved there.
Yeah, so that's crossed out then.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. So I've got a detailed question really quick. I don't mean to hold this up, but
No.
when you say erratic writing, I just picture the movie with Jim Carrey. It's called 27.
Yeah.
And like at the beginning, he writes very clearly. He has very good penmanship, and then towards the end, it's like it's almost as if he's writing with like a bleeding big marker. Do you remember like, this is so specific. Like, was it just this, was it all the same pen or did she,
no, there was different pen colors.
Yeah.
And the end was black and nuts. Couldn't make out what she was writing.
Wow.
Interesting. Wow.
Because it wasn't language. It was scribbling.
Ooh.
It was, yeah.
You know,
and if it was a language, it wasn't nothing I understood.
Have you heard of
I just know I'm scared.
Yeah. Have you heard of people like on Ambien? Some people, if you stay up past your sleepy time, you get like this euphoria and think that every idea is like the best idea you've come up with. And you start writing shit down.
Yeah, I didn't know that bad. I took it once and I fell asleep in my spaghetti. And I said, oh, that's enough of that. Yeah, that's enough of that.
That sounds fantastic.
Oh, yeah, you think, wouldn't you?
I had a family member on it, and she said that, and her husband said that if she stayed out or stayed up past her time limit of sleepy time,
Yeah.
She would just be like a whole different person.
Wow, I've never heard of that because I didn't get past the spaghetti.
Yeah.
I passed smooth out in the middle of it.
Yeah, I've never taken it, but I mean, it kind of sounds fun. But like the stories that I've heard are like, if you stay past your sleepy time, like every idea you come up is like, oh my God, I'm a genius. I have to write this down.
Wow. Yeah, no. Apparently no genius here because I just passed out in my spaghetti. And I was sober. I mean, it was a pill. It was a sleep pill that everybody was taking.
Yeah, so there's also like alcohol involved in these stories as well. It's like I drank a bottle of wine, or the person is drinking a bottle of wine, and
that could have something to do with it. I must have missed the bottle. Yeah, so we see this, slam the book shut, swear to the heavens I will never do this again. This is what I get, so whatever. And then we just, we in it to win it, because now we're living in a palace. We have come from the hood. We're now in a palace. We've got the balcony. We're on the second floor. We just happy campers. We're just so pleased with ourselves. Let the wackos begin. At this stage, we'd already had such craziness in our life. Why not?
Yeah.
So we try to get on with it, and we're getting on with it really well. It seems like 3 months seems to always be a key number in our lives. So it feels like we had about, 3 months or so in that apartment, getting on with it. Life's moving along. Everything's doing fine. We got the wackadoo upstairs in her suite. Everybody's, mixing and mingling quite nicely. I ain't thinking she's following me no more because I'm living right there. She don't got to follow me. It's just all just so.
Yeah, just make it easier for you.
Yeah, just make it easier. That's right. So, it's just all so bizarre. Now, let's move ahead. We're getting close to my birthday. My birthday happens to be in May. Chad, if you don't mind sharing that part, because it is so bizarre about what I would always say about couldn't wait to be.
Oh, yeah. Alta, ever since I knew her, she would, I can't wait till I'm 40. Something very special or something life-changing is going to happen to me on my birthday. Now, what woman wants to be 40?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or what man? Either way,
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of one of and especially women, God, once you hit 40, you're, over the hill or something. But yeah, she would always say this, but, and then when she hits 40, and I'll let her kind of tell that, but, she'll be right back. She had to step away for a second.
No worries, man.
Yeah, no worries.
She's here.
It was this kind of overlooming, like, oh my gosh, something's gonna happen when I'm 40. Like, you knew something was.
I always knew. Right, I always knew, and I was always very excited and inquisitive, like a little kid, and that language was always consistent. Like Chad said, I'd started that apparently years before, because I was 33 when I met him, or when we were arranged. My favorite word. And so, have you all ever heard of the book The Alien Love Bite?
No, I haven't heard of that.
That sounds awesome.
So you might want to check her out. She's quite famous. Her name is Eve Lorgen, I think, as I'm pronouncing her last name. Lorgen, I think, is her last name.
Okay.
She's been involved in the UFO world for 20, 30 years. And she wrote this book 10, 15, 20 years ago, I'm not sure, called Alien Love Bite. It was the closest I'd ever. It's very different than our story, but she's taken several of these cases of people like Chad and I that she calls it the Alien Love Bite, where we are arranged.
Yeah.
And very specifically.
Yeah, it came out in 2000.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking it up right now. I'm on the computer.
In February.
Right. In February. Oh, on February 14th.
Yeah,
on Valentine's Day.
No,
Yeah.
that's crazy. as
Yeah.
arranged on Valentine's. That's crazy. So, okay, so I'm getting on with it. Can't wait to be 40. Now, my mom has left Louisiana and gone back to Arkansas in the duration of when we spoke about all of us living in Louisiana originally. Mom had decided, that wasn't a good situation. And so she went back to Little Rock, where she had a home and she created an amazing life for herself and so on. Okay, well, at this point now, we're discovering Mom's not doing well health-wise. And she's all by herself. And I miss her beyond words, and she's missing us. And so the plan was, she's going to surprise me. It's hard to surprise me, but they're going to surprise me, and she's going to come to the quarter and move there. She's going to come specifically for my 40th birthday. All right.
Cool.
I don't know any of this, but I know all this, and I'm so excited. I can't hardly stand it. Chad's so excited he can't hardly stand it because he actually loves her, and she adores him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We pre-rented her a mother-in-law cottage in our courtyard where we lived.
In the slave quarters.
In the slave quarter that had been turned into this amazing. In fact, Winona Judd, if you have any idea who I'm talking about.
No, I don't. But
the Judds or whatever, I don't know. It's not my form of music. But anyhow, they had just done a music video in the apartment in our courtyard that we pre-rented for my mom. So Mom's going to move there, and she's coming for my birthday, and we're just beside ourselves. We can't stand it. So life is very strange, isn't it? Because my mom died on that day. She never got out of Little Rock. She died.
What?
Not only did she die, just like all the rest of the insanity, she died to the minute she had just told me I was born. I had only asked her a week prior, long distance, because the woman I worked for wanted to do an astrological chart on me. Well, you got to know your birth information. I don't even hardly know my name. So I call my mom and I say, Mom, I got a really crazy question. Can you even begin to remember what time I'm born? And she said, of course, Alta, you don't forget that. Well, I never had kids. I can forget that. And she said 323. She gave me the number. I was shocked. She said it so immediate. It was immediate. Matter of fact, that's right. So I get this chart done. I don't know anything about astrology. I'm not into any of all of that. I think it's all beautiful, but I know nothing about it. And so I had just asked her, like I said, a week prior. I'd never asked before, ever, because I've never seen an original birth certificate. So I had no idea about any of this information. Okay. Well, that's exactly when they pronounced my mother dead. It was on my 40th birthday at that time.
Oh, my
in
gosh.
Little Rock, Arkansas. Mm-hmm.
So your mother was planning on moving to where you guys were, and then on the day that you were born, your mother passed. The day before she went into they claim a cardiac, and that they brought her back just enough to get a beat. Now, the one thing my mother had always made me swear to her as her only living family that she connected to, that I would never allow resuscitation and that she'd never be put on a machine. And in the native world, that's just a norm. But aside from all of that, it was the fact that's all she'd ever asked of me, and that I would have her cremated and take her ashes back to the ocean. Those were the only things she ever asked of me. Wow. And so it would so happen that the forces that be, the gods, the what have you, decided they're going to put her out the day before. She has a cardiac. They put her on that little machine. They got just enough, they claim, a heartbeat or something. And then next thing I know, they got her in the hospital and they have her all plugged in. Chad and I catch a plane. I have no memory of that because I became a pile of mush the moment I learned that my mother was going through this. Right.
So Chad was strong. He was suffering horribly. We get on a plane. We get there. The moment we get there, the day before my birthday, I am begging her surgeon, let me have my mother. You know my mother. Let me have her. Let me take her home. Please just let me take her home. And he was very cruel. Now, I just sound like a victim, and I hate that part of this story because I'm not a victim. Just repeating the insanity of what's happened to us. I remember begging him, Chad standing right there. And that doctor looked right at me. There's a lot more to that, but he basically said, you've got to give her a chance. Like I was trying to kill my mother.
Right.
And so they would not.
Paradox.
They wouldn't allow for this to happen. And I made it clear to him in my insanity, you have no idea what you're doing. My mother will die on my 40th birthday. I told him straight out. This was 24 hours prior. Well, nobody's hearing me. And so wouldn't you know, the next day, that's exactly how it was going down. My mom's still all plugged up. She's all hooked up on these machines and so on and so forth. Then next thing I know, after all day of this insanity and this hell, they tell me I have to make the decision to unplug her. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's telling me I'm about to kill my mother.
Yeah.
The insanity of this. So they put me in a little room all by myself. Chad gave me the grace to be alone in this room, to talk to my mom. She's not in the room with me. I'm in a waiting room. I'm on the floor, and I am in the worst of condition. And I'm begging for help. I'm just begging. Next thing I know, I kept screaming to the gods, don't make me make this decision, not this decision. And wouldn't you know, I heard this little nurse screaming, Alta, hurry, hurry. She's leaving. I go running down that corridor. I get to my mom. My mom had left. Right at the time that I was being forced to make that decision. She did it for me. But it was exactly at that time of my birth. Is, how that happened. So we get back to, I'll move the story along.
It's almost like she knew though. Like it was like, it was on your birthday, and that's kind of a bummer situation to be in.
Yeah.
But it was almost like she was like, hey, don't worry about it. I didn't want this in the first place.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. You don't have to make the decision.
That's right.
Right.
Oh, I just love you for saying that. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
It was like releasing
such a
Alta
gift.
from the decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I would never. I mean,
couldn't imagine.
I can't imagine being put in that place to be making that decision. Like even as like a daughter or son. Like I just cannot believe.
No.
I can't ever put myself in that to understand where you're coming from. But yeah, no, Joe, I think you put it the best way possible. Like it's almost.
Joe, absolutely. Such a gift she gave us. She gave me, and she gave Chad for loving her so much. What an amazing gift. And I don't lose sight of that. And thank you for taking note of that.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've got all of her inheritance. My mom was very involved in the native arts, and she was a drum maker and textiles and paintings, this and that, and what have you. So
the first female truck driver in America.
Yep.
Right.
The first three, that's right, 18-wheelers. Only one we understood that had a baby in 1957. That's right. And then went on and got a degree in law. Bill Clinton, her first law professor. I mean, just this amazing woman, just an amazing woman. And so she left a lot of amazing things behind, physical things that, of course, I could have given a shit about. None of that mattered to me, never mattered to me. But then the respect of my mom and what she was involved in with the arts and her work and so on. So we've got to get all that transferred from Arkansas back to New Orleans. The reason for telling you that is that with all of this amazing stuff we had that people might see of value, the most precious gift that we kept for ourselves was my mother's telephone. Because my mom had, I understood, used that phone to get help when she knew she was in trouble. So I couldn't part with the phone, because I knew it was the last thing she'd connected with.
Yeah.
And so we just couldn't part with it. So we keep that phone. Now, that phone's got no physical value, obviously. It's just an old rotary, I think, or a push button. I can't even remember any longer. Yeah. It's not cell. It's, landline.
Yeah.
So we're going to use that phone. That's going to become our phone in our apartment. Chad, you help me, because nobody believes these stories. Yeah. They're so freaking crazy.
Somebody would call us, or we would call people, and then all of a sudden there would be somebody else on the line, or another conversation going on the line, and it would be like
languages
different language
we couldn't describe,
like Portuguese or something. I mean, it was
wow,
really, yeah, it was just like a very strange, and a couple of different languges.
I mean, it was going on constantly. That phone was
every time, every time, pretty much 90% of the calls.
Thank you, Chad.
Would have something
else creepy,
somebody else talking, and it didn't seem like they could hear us talk, but we could hear them.
They had their own world going on. We're just trying to use the phone, and there's no party line, and
Yes. So you have this rotary phone, this old school, where you plug in the cord to the wall, and you've moved to this new place, and you plug it into the wall, and you pick up the phone to make a call, or I don't know. And then I was going to say, like, back in the old days, like a party line was literally you shared the same line with your whole neighborhood.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty good ear for languages. I don't speak the languages, but I got a pretty good ear for them. And I'm telling you, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of languages out there I have no clue about, in all honesty. But in all honesty, never recognized any of these languages. Had no idea what the hell was going on this phone. The phone would ring, and there'd be nothing there. The phone would ring, and you'd have all these different voices. We'd go to use the phone, like Chad said, and this would be going on. Now it gets even creepier. Now we're calling the phone company trying to get help. Well, they send dude out to the house, and he goes through the whole system, and he's making it clear. Best he can tell, everything looks just dandy. He doesn't understand it. Okay. Then other bizarreness would take place, such as phone would ring, not connected. Finally, I can't take it anymore. I'll never forget, I almost verbatim, a lady at that phone company saying to me in a very Southern New Orleans voice, "Well, honey, did you ever think it might be haunted?" Nobody says that. Who says that in a phone company? Who says that?
It's almost like the priestess got a new job and she knew who you were. She ended up working for the phone company.
Either that or my landlord, Joe, upstairs, had been following me around.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. So we got a little guy friend that Chad worked with in the restaurant bar business. His name was Robert. Robert had met my mom before she crossed, and before my mom died. Somebody made some nasty comment to me about using the word cross, so I'll catch myself. When my mom actually died, before she died, her and Robert had become friends when Mom would come to visit, and they were tight friends. They were very tight. And he's a little clown. This little guy was just a little clown, just adorable. Well, he wanted that phone bad because I told Chad that phone's going to go. It's got to go. This got to go. And we just decided, that phone's got to go. So rather than just toss it out, end up with some stranger, God forbid, because what the hell? This thing is, honey, did you ever think it might be haunted? Is all I keep remembering. So Robert wants that haunted phone. He wants it. So we sold him that phone for sure. He offered us some money and we said sold.
Yeah.
Take the phone and be happy and so on. So that was the last of that business. So this all takes place in May. My birthday in May. We're now into June. Now, if we can, we're going to actually get to this story that the book has been actually written about. We're right there.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah. The big buildup. So, okay, I'm going through, just deep sorrow. There's no way else to describe it. I'm in such a dark mourning place. I can't come out of it. But I'm a reader. I can't afford to be in this darkness and be a reader. We don't work well together. So I don't know how I managed it, but for somehow or other, I managed to keep working and doing my job. But I'm dying. Internally, I'm dying. I'm just dying. I just want to die. And I'm struggling because I love Chad and I love life. So I'm changing and I'm falling deep into it. I work with this young woman. We call her Christine or Christina in the book. We've changed her first name. She didn't even ask us to. We did so when we had the book published.
Yeah.
At the time, she's 24, Chad's 34, and how's that work?
No.
Wait a minute. She's 24. I just turned 40. Chad was 30. So I'm the old chick of the crew of the three of us. Just give you kind of numbers. She happens to be 24, tall, slender, long blonde hair, very attractive, and single. Never been married, no kids. She'd moved to New Orleans. She'd been living in Florida for a long time. She was like a beach baby. And I've just been very fortunate in the girls I've known in my life, being adorable, very vibrant, pretty, all those things. Very cool, very independent women I seem to have always been drawn to and attracted to.
Yeah.
So Christina, she had met my mother. When my mom had come to town, I brought her to the shop. Everybody knew her. And Christina knew that I was in the deepest, darkest place with the death of my mom. So one night, Christina, I'm going to say this is again like my mom dies in May on my birthday, June, July, August. We're now probably the beginnings of September. Weather is still warm, but, starting to change the hair, but not too much. And she is asked me before, and I've always said no, or maybe once or twice before, did I want to go out? And I said no. This particular night, I agreed. I'm like, yeah, it's time. We had never done it before. We'd never been in the quarter together. She'd been to my home, but we'd never been out. So she asked if I want to go out that night and just go out and be spontaneous. Maybe dinner, drinks, no plans. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I said, let's call Chad because Chad likes the girls and the girls love Chad. And it's like, let's just, we'll call Chad. So our townhouse was only a couple blocks away from the shop I worked in. We called Chad. We tell him the plan. Yeah, he's all about it. He's ready for a party. So he gets himself all cuted up and he walks over to the shop to meet her and I. She's manager of the shop. She's got the keys. So she locks the shop up and we step out the door. My memory of all of this is it's somewhere around 9. Somewhere around 9.
Between 9 and 9:30. Between
9 and 9:30. The shop closed, I guess, at 9. She's manager, so she's got duties. By the time she gets it all done, we step outside the doors. She's locking the door. It's around between 9 and 9:30. I remember instantly, which is really weird, saying out loud, the energy feels weird. It feels weird. Now, I didn't go around talking like that. All the other people that are readers and into all this stuff, that's how they talk. But that's not how I did. But I did that night. I remember it very clearly, stepping out and making that comment. I remember both Chad and her acknowledging that they thought it felt weird too. They don't talk that way either. But we did. We made that comment. Well, now everything is done on foot in the quarter. You don't drive. It's expensive. We had a car, but you got to pay a fortune to keep it parked. And the quarter is 13 blocks, I think, square. So we're just going to walk. We're going to start at one end of it and just work our way across the quarter spontaneously. So we start off, we're only a few blocks from, as I call it, the famous Bourbon Street. We're going to start there and just work our way across. Our first plan is to go to a club, restaurant, place that Chad worked in when we first moved there on Bourbon. It's going to be our first beginnings. I'll try to speed the story up. We get there. That's a very weird experience because from the moment we hit Bourbon Street, I remember looking around saying, where is everybody? Where is everybody?
Yeah, I mean, the French Quarter is 24/7. I mean, no matter.
Yeah.
Have you all ever been to the Quarter? Either of you?
We went on our tour, our band tour.
Yep. When we went through Louisiana. Yep. We went and hung out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know it's a crazy place.
Yeah, it's always packed with people.
Always.
Right. There's always something going on.
Even in the slow periods of the
even the
months
slow
of the
period.
year.
Yeah, right.
Which is reason enough to not want to drive,
Exactly.
A million people everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's not the
not
the
this
tourists, it's the locals.
Right.
When
like
everybody's
us.
not busy, it's the locals that
But on this night, there's
it
no
was
people.
crazy. There was nobody.
There was no people. There were a few stragglers.
Right.
There were a few looking human beings, but there's no people. There's no noise, like all the musicians. Neither one of us can account for that. There's no people.
Wow.
And I'm saying, now I'm not thinking nothing high strangeness.
Right.
I'm not thinking none of that. I'm just like, where the F is everybody? Where is everybody? Right?
Because there's musicians everywhere on every street corner. I mean, that's part of the appeal is that they're always there.
At that night.
Yeah.
That's
not that
crazy.
So we get over to this bar restaurant that I used to work at. And
where we know everybody, even the owner.
We knew the owner. We knew the
everybody.
managers.
Yeah.
The bartender was this great guy. His name was Freak, and he was just this philosopher, and we could just sit and talk with him all night long. We knew the band, and so.
So this building is 3-story, if I remember correctly. The top story is the balcony and the disco. They has a beautiful winding staircase, wood staircase, all the way up to that disco. And the bottom ground, they have, what do you call that when you come off the street into the bar?
There's a carriageway, and then
the carriageway was a bar right on the street. Yeah. And then you go past that into the courtyard, which was a huge restaurant.
Outdoor restaurant.
On this night, there's nobody there. There's no wait staff. There's no
band.
Clientele. There's no band. There's nobody, with the exception of one human being, we think, only because we knew him, happened to be a black dude who also happened to be a Mardi Gras Indian. Now, is that familiar term to you, Mardi Gras Indians?
Never heard of it.
Not specifically.
So you just Google that one up and you'll discover they're a huge part of Louisiana, particularly New Orleans. They're black folk who wear very extravagant, very
I've seen that.
native.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing images right now. I've literally never seen this before, but
I've seen that.
love the colors. It's awesome.
So they are a big, big deal for the tourism and the world of New Orleans and Louisiana. We didn't know until that night that this dude was a Mardi Gras Indian. That's bizarre because we'd known him for years. He knew my mother was an Indian elder. He'd met her. He knew I was a little mixed Indian girl. He knew I had all my regalia. And up until that night, we did not know this about him. But on this weird-ass night, he tells us, the only one that's in this whole building, he wants to show us his regalia. What? Okay. Now, again, we're not thinking nothing paranormal. We're just like, what the?
Yeah.
What?
So it's Alta and Chad and is it Kristen the
doesn't matter. Call her anything you like. Christina. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the three of us.
So just the three of you guys, and you guys are on the. Sorry, I'm just. I tuned out because I was reading some stuff about. I just want to make sure. So you guys are on the street, and there's like oddly no one there, and you run into the Mardi Gras Indian, and now he's like, "Hey, let me show you my regalia."
Well, we went to this place that Chad first worked years prior when we first moved to New Orleans.
He was the manager.
He was the manager of this whole establishment. He's the only one that's on location that we can see, that we're aware of, that's there.
Yeah.
He says to us, Well, he offered us a house drink. He makes us all a drink. He wants to show me in particular, and Chad, but me in particular, his regalia. Now we're shocked because, again, we didn't even know he was a Mardi Gras Indian. We didn't know any of this. So we're like, okay, we'll trot up to the disco. We go up the stairs to the disco.
He's got to turn on the lights and everything. I mean, this was one of the major clubs there on Bourbon Street.
Club. So turns on all the lights, whatever, and there's this regalia like under light. And it feels to me like it was all red. And I'm like, where the hell am I? And what the hell? And we're sober. We haven't even had a drink yet. Huh. I remember none of us drank the drink because we wanted out. We're trying to have a party. And we're just kind of freaking out at this point. Now, Christina could give a shit about the regalia and all that. No disrespect. Yeah. She loves me. She loves my Indianness and so on. But we're just all trying to have a party this night.
Yeah, definitely.
So we make our polite, we got to go. Thanks. Lovely to see you. Beautiful regalia. Right on. We got to go. None of us remember drinking the drink. And out the door we go. Now, I'll speed the story up. We stop at another spot midway of these 13 blocks, like right in the middle of the quarter. It was a place that Christina knew about. I don't remember ever being there before. I don't think Chad knew it. We get there. Well, story's the same. Look in the door. We actually went in, if I remember correctly, we sat down in a booth, and all that was in there was a bartender. That was it. There's no people. Okay, we don't even stay around to order a drink. We're going to get on with this because where the hell is the party? Now we're up and out the door again. Now we're getting to the very end of the quarter. We go to a place that Chad and I had gone to often enough. Now, we weren't party hardiers. We didn't do it all the time. But when we did do it, this was our favorite place. And it's where the locals would generally navigate to. And it was the bottom half of this place was a Thai restaurant. Above it was a place called the Dragon's Den. It's still in effect, if I'm not mistaken. With quarantine, it's hard to say. But it's still called the Dragon's Den. It's a small, relatively small, you got to go up a kind of creepy stairs to get to it above this Thai restaurant. It's got a small balcony, but when you get up in there, it's just cool as hell. It's got
the walls are all painted black.
Yeah.
But they have these mirrors
from ceiling to floor.
And these are probably, 10, 15 foot ceilings,
Huge.
And I mean, it
very
looked like
gothic-y
very gothically, almost like opium den kind of, because you had the pillows and
pillows on the floor.
Pillows and and the short tables.
Den. We've never done opium.
That's neat.
Yeah. I've never been to one of those places, but it sure it looks like the ones in the movie anyway.
And we knew the guys that were oftentimes the musicians there. Yeah. We'd gone enough where we're comfortable.
Knew the bartender.
Right. Bartenders, that's right. So giving you that background, we go up those stairs, three of us, after this weird night we've already had, starting at 9:30. We're an hour into this story. We still haven't had a drink. No drugs. No nothing. As we go up the rickety stairs, we get up to the top of the stairs, and all of a sudden the door is closed, and there's a sign. They want a door coverage. What? That's never happened before.
The price, your soul.
Exactly.
Right.
What? Now we're pissed. Now we just, we're muttering our pissness. Like, we've never had to do this before. We ain't starting tonight kind of thing. And
we tipped the band.
Yeah.
Nice.
Three of us pivot on those stairs, and down the stairs we trot, just grumbling all the way down. And we get back out on the street. We're going to give it one last shot. Now, the last shot place is just a half a block, not even that far, up the street. And that place is called Checkpoint Charlie's. Checkpoint Charlie's is just a big old dive. Just a big old pool hall dive. But that dive is the place where all the famous, when they come in and do their gigs, when they want to just play and hang and be, that's where they did it. And they did it for free.
Yeah.
That's right. The Old Faithful. Always Old Faithful. Now, on this night, Now, as we cross this little street to get to it, I can already see there's no people. Also, I can see the door is open, which is normal. But what's not normal is they've got a doorman. This dive had never had a doorman that I knew of. This doorman is a little squirt. He's a little adorable blonde-haired squirt. He's a little guy.
There's a bouncer, but there's nobody to bounce.
Yeah.
A bouncer. He looks like a little Nirvana dude.
Yeah.
He looks like a little Beach Boy.
Little Kurt Cobain.
Totally. And he's looking about the same age as our little girlfriend.
Wow.
Who's single. Right. So I'm like, well, that's convenient. He's cute. She's adorable. Wow. And he's friendly. He's smiling. I don't even bother any longer. I'm so over this night I can't breathe. I just blow past him and I look inside the door. And what do you suppose? There's not a soul in there. Not a soul in there. Not even a bartender. There's nothing in this place. At this point now, I've had it. I have absolutely had it. I turn around to Chad and under my breath, because I don't want her to hear this, I'm like, I am so bored. And that's the worst thing for Alta to be. I'm so, Chad, I don't even want to walk the blocks home. Let's get a cab. That's how bad I just wanted out of there.
Wow.
I wanted to go home and I just wanted to die. Not literally, but mentally. There's a little stoop halfway up the block. I take my arse over to that stoop and I sit down on it in such a frump. Chad walks over to me. We're several feet away from her, looking real friendly with the doorman. And I'm thinking, well, all is not lost. At least she's got a friend for the night, you know, whatever, right? And I'm saying to Chad, I just want to go home. I feel like Dorothy in Oz. I just want to go home. And that's the last thing I know. That's the last thing I know. We realize it's probably around 11 o'clock. So we're an hour and a half out there. No alcohol, no drugs. And God forbid there was nobody around to drug us, because I'd accept that over what happened to us. But that did not happen. That didn't happen. The next thing I know, I'm sitting straight up in my living room. I am cross-legged like I am right now, Indian style, sitting on my daybed in my living room.
Whoa.
I'm rubbing my arms. I got something in my upper arm that's got my attention. I didn't wake up. I came to. I like to express there's a huge difference in waking up and coming to.
Yeah.
I'm sitting straight up. My eyes popped open and daylight is beaming through my windows.
What?
So now we are entering the next chapter of, I mean, this is like the missing time precipice. I mean, it's easy to, as you're listening to this, just kind of like think, oh, la-di-da-da-da. But I mean, I feel like we should stop for a moment and realize what just happened. Because you're on the stoop, you're obviously in a state of kind of annoyance, and you're just doing, I mean, everybody's been there, like, hey, I don't really feel like being out tonight. This is weird. I'm not having the greatest time. Like, hey, I'm glad to be here with friends, but I'm ready to go home. I've been there so many times, like ready to go home, turn on Harry Potter, go to sleep. Like, yeah,
that's right.
And then that state of mind, and there's every single time I've been in that state of mind, I wish that I didn't have to go through the grueling part of like calling an Uber. I mean, then I know that there maybe was an Uber at this. I don't know. Maybe there was, but like, I don't know. But like, yeah,
not in 1997. No Ubers in 97.
Yeah, but like, just like snap my fingers and I'm in my bed, like ready to go home. Like that's the perfect scenario. But what happened to you is I mean, this is not just you, right? This is Chad as well, right? I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself,
but Christina. There's three of us.
So this is, sorry, I'll stop talking, but like I just want the listeners to like, hey,
yeah,
listen to this shit. Like this is a big deal.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. It's a big deal because 1 minute we're on that street corner at 11 o'clock at night, and the next minute I am sitting straight up in my living room. It's the next day. It's somewhere between 8 and 9 in the morning. So I have from 11 to 8, 9 gone. That's gone.
Wow.
Now, I'm the only one, let me preface this before we go any further. I'm the only one out of the three of us that appears to have memory of the in-between. I have no memory of coming off the street, and I have no memory of being returned home. But I have a very distinct, and it's always, unless something makes me amnesic, it is now part of who I am, memory of in between. So my eyes pop open. As I said before, I didn't wake up. I came to. I'm rubbing my arms. I'm losing my mind. And I'm seeing daylight coming through because I come to with memory. So I'm still in that memory as I'm also taking in, wait a minute, I'm home.
Right.
It's all happening at the same time. Now the next thing that comes to me is, what the fuck is in my arm? And I literally said that out loud. And where is Chad? Where's Christina? They're not there.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
What?
So,
Oof.
yeah. So, a whole lot to all of this. There's just so much. And I might add, I'm sorry that we've not had the opportunity to share with you our very beginning stories that we've left out due to time and so on. Because what I say to you when I come to and realize Chad and Christina are missing, that is so emphasized if you knew the other portion of our story that we haven't had an opportunity to share with you.
Yeah.
It's just, I would not wish this on nobody, not nobody, of what has happened to us in the order that it has happened to us in regards to the terror that's associated with what we've experienced. So I'm not sure where you want to go with the rest of all of this because there's so much.
Yeah.
Chad's experience, Christina's experience.
Yeah.
Mine goes on and on and on. So
I'd love to hear from Chad, from his experience. I don't know, Joe.
I'm assuming that Christina is this third party that y'all spoke of at the beginning.
Right. She was my manager, my store manager, and my friend.
Yeah. And I know y'all had said that there was like 3 people,
right.
But there was one person that wasn't interested in really speaking. So I'm assuming that's who this was, right?
Right. But let me also mention Christina, I had her put it in writing.
Yeah.
Her experience several years ago. She's given us permission to speak on her behalf. She never even asked us to change her name in the book. That was done by publisher and just for safety's sake and so on. But she never requested that. To this day, we are still connected. We're still connected.
Wow.
She's long distance from us, but we are still connected. And so we speak as honestly because she's always understood that I would represent to the best of my ability, and Chad as well, her experience and what she relayed to me of what happened to her. She just has been very smart and very wise. She's a very different being than Chad and Alta.
Yeah.
She went on, let me just mention this. She went on from having that experience with us to get a degree in environmental science.
Oh.
Not mistaken, she's got her master's now. She's gone on, she's had a baby who's now graduated from college, that she's, a son. I mean, it's all just mind-blowing. Her life is very different. She's living the dream, I guess, in terms of what's considered the American dream.
Yeah.
And
hell yeah.
Very wise, has stayed anonymous. Because again, this is not something you can be public about ever, I think, expect to have a quality of life by most people because of the way we're treated over these. The difference is that Chad and I were never going to have children. We never had to worry about embarrassing anybody.
Right.
And, the shame of it all, which is not the way we see it at all. Good God, if that's a Virgin Mary type of being that says you've got to get stable, I've been told by the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So...
Well, I'll just interject and just say, like, it's a choice that you would be making for someone else's life that it's not something that everybody would want. It's when someone Googles a name and it sticks in our day and age, right? So yep. I mean, I'm not saying like, man, if this happens to you, don't have kids. I'm just saying like that's something that I think everybody has to think about. That's the burden. That's part of the burden, right? Like
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that there's an ultimatum here or there, but it's just something that's just a reality. Hopefully with the work we're doing and this conversation that we're having, the more people that hear the things you guys are saying, and the more we normalize that this stuff happens, the more the less that it's going to be such a faux pas or
just taboo.
Yeah, taboo. Thank you.
What we live for. We absolutely live for it. That's why I can't compliment the both of you, any higher than without sounding phony. We're so grateful to both of you. You're adorable. You're funny. You're insightful. You've given us pause. You've given us reason to think, to be open. That's all we've ever asked for is we love questions. Nobody ever questions us because the story is so shocking. I think we leave people, sort of just like blasted, not intentionally, just trying to get it said.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, just extremely grateful to both of you.
Oh,
because this has got to get normalized in order for this to have the ability to be able to have these conversations. I'll share with you all because I have no idea how fast time goes. It goes way too fast in trying to share.
If
we get a chance before you tell us that time is up, we have a friend here in this small town that we've moved back to. We're in Alabama now. And we have a friend who we've had in our life for many years, a guy who happens to be 38 years old right now, who lives in this small town with us. He had an experience when he was 18 years old, 30 years ago in 1989 in this small town that is effing mind-blowing.
Wow.
UFO. Mind-blowing. I had him put it in writing. He willfully and gratefully did it for me and Chad and sent it to us today that we might want to share with you if you give us an opportunity.
Oh, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Because again, he's been very wise. This isn't something, many people are comfortable to be public about because of the abuse that so many go through of being crazy or treated that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's happening everywhere to everybody.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
We'd love to hear his story. Absolutely.
It's real short. It's real short, and he's done it beautifully.
Yeah,
and we'll share that with you again if we have opportunity.
Yeah,
but in the
definitely.
meantime,
well, let's do that at the end of this session.
Yeah.
I would definitely like to hear that for sure. What I think I want to get into really quick is so we had this missing time event. I would kind of like to hear Chad's perspective on this event as well, and then round that into, they were gone. Where did they go?
Christina's story. She's given us permission to share hers. Hers has got to deal with Wolfie Boy.
Oh, werewolf. Absolutely.
Werewolves.
Sweet.
So
let's do it.
In my experience, again, just like Alta explained, leaving there at 9:30. Last thing I remember was around 11.
Alta moaning,
sitting on that stoop or standing, next to the stoop.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next memory is I wake up probably around 9-ish the next morning,
like an hour after I came to.
Maybe, yeah. And there's, I don't feel, there's no hangover. There's no drug hangover. So I haven't had, anything happen to me. I knew nothing happened, but I did not know how I got home.
Mm-hmm. He has no memory.
There's no memory.
So are you in the home that Alta is also in, or were you? Okay.
Right. I get up. I start walking towards Alta. Alta's coming out of the bathroom,
mm-hmm.
and we're just kind of like running towards each other,
mm-hmm.
or moving towards each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how the hell did we get home last night?
And I'm looking for him to tell me what happened to us.
And she's like, I was hoping you would
I'm
be
not
able to
calm
tell
like
me.
he sounded at all. I'm losing my mind. Mm-hmm.
So,
damn. Yeah, I'm just relating, and I've only blacked out once in my, I browned out a couple of times, but
right.
luckily I was with my now wife. We were dating at the time, but I just Thank God. And I remember like just the sheer moment of bliss knowing that someone knew what I did. Because not knowing is the most frightening
Right.
feeling.
Right.
So I can't imagine what you went through knowing that you didn't have any alcohol.
Right. Right.
Or drugs.
Yeah.
No reason. There was no reason to just.
And as
go
I'm running
out.
towards Chad, coming out of the bathroom, trying to understand what the hell was going on with my arm, I'm waiting for him visually to just looking at his face to just know that that confidence is there, that he can explain to me. And as I'm moving towards him, I can see he's lost. That's not something I want to see. And we're both lost. And I'm like screaming at him, look at my arm. What's in my arm? And where's Christina? And because there's more to that part. When I came to, I don't see either of them. But I got visual into my bedroom from where I'm sitting, and I see a big lump in my bed, and the lump is covered in a blankie. And I've said before, I'm praying to the heavens that lump belongs to me. And as I've often said before, it'd be really, truly the one time it'd be acceptable to have two lumps in my bed. But I'm only counting one. And I don't even know who the lump is because I can't see a head. I can't see a face. And I'm going through absolute insanity. So by the time I come out of the bathroom, we'll get back to Chad here because he's got a great story. But just to lead into that, as I'm moving towards him, he's already up at this point. He's moving towards me, and he's waiting for me to explain to him something. So now we understand very quickly, we can't explain. And where's Christina?
Right.
Take note of that. She's missing. She's not there. She's not a lump.
Whoa.
She's not there. She's not there. And I'm showing him my arm. And Chad, tell him what you saw.
She goes,
because I didn't
there's
see.
something in my arm. And when I looked down, there was these handprints around both arms, kind of around the muscle, up between the elbow and shoulder. They were very, very long. They wrapped all the way around her arm.
Wow.
Fingerprint. And there was only four prints. There's only 4 digits, like a thumb and 3 fingers.
Dude.
And it was as if somebody was either holding her from behind or there was like something, maybe 2 somethings, on each side, of her. Now, the bruises did not last long, maybe, 24 hours or so.
No pain.
No pain. No, she said there was no pain, no kind of aggravation or anything like that.
It was long enough for him to see it.
Yeah, they didn't last long. Of course, again, we didn't take pictures because, it was just...
Those picture stories are so interesting because that's the way everybody thinks. But I'll just say this to anybody. You're going through the insanity we're going through, I guarantee you. We ain't thinking when was this? 97. Where's the camera? Right. All we can say is, where's Christina? Right. Where's Christina?
And she's out to like, call Christina. And I'm like, I'm not calling Christina. You call Christina. She goes, I'm not calling Christina. You call Christina.
Right. And again, a lot more terror in the voice than the calmness that Chad is saying.
Right.
We are in a very controlled hysteria.
Right.
Controlled hysteria.
But we didn't talk to her, Alta talked to her.
So I happened to be off work for 2 days, conveniently having this experience. So for 2 days, Chad and I never surfaced. We never came out of our apartment, our townhouse. We kept everything bolted, shut, locked, covered. We were, I don't know how to describe these kinds of emotions. We're mortified. We're terrified.
Yeah.
We're scared shitless.
Yeah,
where's Christina?
The amount of paranormal.
Right.
We're way beyond all of that. Way beyond that. Way beyond it.
I misspoke. I meant paranoia. Paranoia of like, oh shit.
All of the P words. We were all of those P words we're experiencing.
Yeah.
It's just to speed this along, 2 days later, I got to go to work. Now, I got to go to work. I'm 2 days in darkness, hiding, waiting for Christina to call us, show up, something. She ain't. Now I got to go to work. And I just have no idea what I'm facing. I walk in my shop. Who's there to greet me? Christina.
What?
She's right there. Yeah, she's right there. She seems fine. She makes it clear to me, and this is what helped me understand the difference in age. She's 24 at the time. I just turned 40. She's handling this. She made it very clear to me. She knows something happened to us. She knows it. She knows she's got lots of missing time. She knows it. But she also made it clear to me she's processing. She's just dealing. What?
Yeah.
Now that's the difference in youth and whatever, because I'm sinking inside and I'm so happy I can't hardly breathe. She's all right. She's all right. So as we move along in this story, just to get that part of the story filled in for you all, several years later, we get regression done for Chad. Now, I've tried several times to get regressed. Has never happened. As I told you, Bledsoe's therapist came to me first before he met Bledsoe.
Yeah.
Came to my home. That was a disaster. Lots to the craziness of what I've tried to have done to get help.
It was a disaster.
Shit. Oh, it's creepy. It's creepy.
Oh,
Just creepy.
I bet it is.
sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah.
No, but
I realized
it gets difficult when we speak of people who are well known, because I don't want criticism,
Yeah.
and I don't want anybody, such as, if I might mention real quickly, I mentioned Walton in our last hurrah with y'all, that conversation and his reaction to us. I felt like, I think one of you had beautiful insightfulness over the idea of how he may have responded, which is, I can't remember exactly right now, because we never have understood. We haven't understood, nor have we necessarily tried to fill in the blanks, to speak his mind. I suspect, this is just me, I'm sticking with it, I suspect it's too close to home.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I interject for just a second? When I asked how was it a disaster, I was thinking, I was alluding to the idea of, like, in my mind, I was thinking like, oh, you had a terrible experience, like it was too frightful, or like it scared you both, or maybe it just didn't work. It was one of the two. That's where I was going with. I didn't, I wasn't trying to probe you into talking about any kind of.
No. I got no secrets. I find what's happened with these known folks almost more interesting than what's happened to us with whatever one calls them.
Yeah.
I don't use the word ET. I don't use the word alien. I use the word being. I call them kind of language. I'm just suggesting that the insanity of what I see is insanity that I have experienced personally, in both Chad and I, with these well-known folks in this field, is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah.
Mind-blowing. So the disaster part of that was it didn't happen. The regression never took place.
Okay.
Came here, it happened. So
you don't have to go. You don't have to go too far into it if you're uncomfortable with it.
Paranormal led into it, which I think is interesting. This experience with this person. So I've never been able to be regressed yet. Chad, I've tried 3 different times, and it just has not happened. But Chad regresses apparently very easy. And we found somebody here in Alabama. We used to live here many years ago. We moved here originally in 2001. And I found somebody, I think in 2002, that drove a couple hours here to our home, a woman who they had a nice relationship, her and Chad. And they went off into a room and she regressed him. And if you're interested, because I find this all so fascinating personally, he'll share with you what his regression showed as far as what happened to him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And maybe a possibility that Christina was involved with Chad in that experience. But you'll listen to him tell you this regression, and you'll discover I'm not a part of any of his experience.
Gotcha.
When I came to the next morning of that night, I told you I have memory of the in-between.
Yeah.
In my memory, Christina's not part of my experience, nor is Chad. So if you'll just take note of that.
Yeah. Oh, really quick. I mean, like 5 seconds. I just have to clear this up. The lump was not Christina in the bed, right? Like I'm just.
Chad.
was
So
Chad.
you're right.
Okay.
The one lump that was in the bed belonged there, and it happened to be Chad.
Okay.
And Christina was not a second lump, nor was she anywhere else in the apartment. The
Gotcha.
townhouse.
I just had to ask. I don't know. I mean, I'm not insinuating
No,
anything. I'm just thinking
ask.
like, I'm sure somebody else out there is probably thinking.
Who's the lumps? Right. Yeah, that lump belonged to me, and it was Chad.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah. Sorry,
Chad's regression.
Chad's regression. Thank you. Sorry, I keep trailing you guys off, and I'm sorry about that.
It's all good. So, again, my last memory is being there on that stoop. Now, what comes out in my regression is our friend Christina she finishes talking to the door guy, and she joins us down, mid-block, at the stoop, and we're sitting there. And all of a sudden, I look around the corner, and I could see this bright light coming from around the corner. I get the girl's attention, and we walk around the corner. This would be like around the Frenchman area. And we walk over to Frenchman. We walk around the corner, and there's this huge orb of light. It's probably about 15, 20 foot off the ground. It's probably about 12 foot in diameter. It's, again, this bright, white, clear, clean, just orb of light.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it just comes towards us and just engulfs us. It just takes us in. It abducts us.
Oh, that's where the title comes from.
Yeah.
This orb abducts us. So it's we're abducted. My next memory is I'm walking down this corridor. There's lights, but I don't see any light, source. But the walls, the ceiling, the floor, everything's metallic. No rivets, no bolts. Very smooth. Looking at it, I didn't touch it, but it's very smooth. There's nothing. I'm following this little being. He's probably about 3-4 foot tall. He's got a big bulbous head. Now, I only see him from behind. I never saw his face that I remember.
Yeah.
He's wearing this tight, like one-piece black, almost like a scuba diver kind of clothing, or what you'd see in a spacecraft or something, these movies.
Yeah.
He's not real thin like you'd see on TV. He kind of has substance. He kind of waddles. He's almost like a dwarf or a small person. He kind of waddles, walks. Preferably, out of my corner of my eye on my left, I could see a tall blonde female walking next to me. Again, I didn't turn to look, but this does describe our friend that was with us. But I didn't turn to look to, see if it was her. I was almost like zombie, or not. I hate to say zombie, but like almost like in this dream state, kind of where, it's not. I'm not fully conscious. But I'm not like hypnotized. I can remember. My next memory is I'm in this room, and it just seems infinite. It's very, very dark. I can't see, how big this room is, but it just seems huge, huge. Off to my left, I could see a tall blonde female laying on an examining table, metallic kind of table. She was nude, but I couldn't see like body parts. I couldn't see her face. It was like, how like on regular TV, they blur out the body parts
They
and
censor.
stuff like that. They
Yeah.
censor.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of how it was. You know, or how she was.
It's almost
were-
like it's almost kind of like a dream. Like when you are in a dream state and you see people, you don't really see people. You see like this, just almost like a blur image of something, and you understand and you feel a person, but you don't physically see it. But you understand. You have that almost human connection to that other being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were 3 beings around her, one on each side of her, and one at the around her head, you know, at the end of the table. These beings were very tall. They were like 7, 8 foot tall.
Wow.
Jeez.
They had big bulbous heads. Their mouths were kind of close to their chin. Almost kind of praying mantis-y, you know, big eyes. Their arms were kind of crooked, you know, like a kind of a praying mantis.
Oh.
Now, they were wearing this cloak, or coat, or cloak,
Robe.
almost like the Grim Reaper, but without the hood.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
or like a Jesuit priest. You know,
Yeah.
very long, black. You know,
Like
Now, the person-
a wizard's cloak, like with the
Yeah.
long
right,
arm
just very
holes.
long arm. You know, long sleeves. You know, Now, the person on the table never seemed to be in distress or anything like that, or pain. I didn't see any kind of, you know, weird things going on with them. I focused my attention back to my immediate. Now, again, this room was very, very dark, but there was like a little bit of light around her and the beings. I don't remember a light source, but there was light.
And if I might interject very quickly so you can really see the picture he's trying to paint for you, her body parts were censored, not anything else. Everything
her
else
from
has
head
been
to toe.
very clear for Chad as far as his visual.
Yeah.
It's all very clear. Only her body parts censored.
Interesting. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder
So,
what that
I-
means.
Yeah,
We're wondering the whole
Right.
story.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such
Yeah,
a specific thing to do. A specific thing to do is like,
So specific.
yeah. Okay, sorry.
Just to blur her body parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so I focus my attention back to my immediate. I look over to my right, and there's this little blue being. Now,
Hmm.
he's big bulbous head, almond-shaped eyes, little slit for a mouth, you know, maybe. Now, he looks a lot like the, you know, beings that you see on TV, you know, very thin, maybe 3
The
foot.
grays.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
grays.
We're also looking at your profile photo on Skype, and
Yeah, right.
Mm.
Yeah. Now, that's the artist rendition. Mine was a little softer than that,
Mhm.
not as kind of grimace
Okay.
looking, scary
Yeah.
looking.
yeah, there's some like cheekbone action and like nose action going
Yeah.
on.
That's arts.
Right.
And Chad always
Yes.
described this blue being as vibrant.
Yeah,
Blue,
it's
like
just
electric
this
blue.
vibrant, electric,
Yeah.
just very beautiful blue.
Mhm.
Now he had skin tone, you know, like his palms
Shades.
were lighter than his, you know, the top of his hand, you know,
Wow.
or the back of his hand.
Mhm.
You know,
He had
he had
shades.
skin tone.
That's such a
But-
specific detail that not a lot of people think about, like the way that skin tone changes from the top of your hands to your palms.
Yeah.
Like I'm floored right now. Okay, sorry. I just had to point that out.
Yeah. So in his aura, his presence was that of like a
Mhm.
scientist / shaman / you know, professor, just this ancient, holistic, scientific knowledge. He goes over and he picks up this box. He has it in his right hand. Now he's only got 4 digits, like 3 fingers and a thumb. He takes he's got the box in his right hand. He takes his left hand and puts it into the side of the box.
Okay.
When he pulls his hand out, there's like this substance kind of free floating a couple inches off above over his hand. He has his hand like flat out. And this substance is, again, free floating. It's blue, the same color blue as him. You could it was kind of translucent. And you could see like these little metal glittery flakes kind of floating and moving around in it. It was kind of undulating and moving around. It kind of looked like that slime stuff that kids played with back in the day, way back in the day,
Oh, yeah. Gack.
Yeah. And it was probably maybe the size of a quarter or a half a dollar, maybe at the most. And so I don't even remember him setting the box down, but he takes his right hand and he puts it up next to his hand and beside this blue substance that's floating above his hand. And when he takes his outer fingers and folds them in and has his 2 middle fingers up, almost kind of like a peace sign, or what you see like the Buddhist monks, or depictions of Jesus.
Yeah.
And he's got like his 2 fingers up, and when he does this substance starts spinning, and it's going faster and faster and faster. And the faster it gets, the blueness and the sparkly stuff and metal flaky stuff kind of dissipate out of it, and it's kind of rotating around it almost like the planets do with the sun and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it starts slowing down, and it had turned into this like double pointed crystal, like a quartz crystal, but it's very, very clear. I mean, you can see through it. There's no cloudiness. There's no nothing. I remember thinking to him, why are you showing this to me? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an engineer. This is something very important. Now, back in the day, I used to think maybe it was some kind of power source or something like that. I'm thinking more now it's maybe a power source, but something more holistic power.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays.
Yeah.
My next memory is I'm in this other room. It's 2 walls, or there's 3 walls, but one's kind of concave. 2 very straight walls, one kind of concave. Again, the walls are very metallic. The room's probably about 15 by 20 by, something like that. The walls, again, are very metallic, very smooth, no rivets, no bolts, no seams, no nothing. Now, this is a part that really gets me, and I hate saying it, but it's part of my truth. There's this overstuffed leather chair sitting in the middle of the room. I remember thinking how out of place it looked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it's like
Family
this black
recliner.
leather, overstuffed.
It's got like a newspaper like on the side. There's like a coffee stain.
Right. Pipe, cigar,
Yeah.
Cocktail.
The cocktail, But, and I remember thinking to myself, it looks comfortable, but it's not.
Aren't they all like, they look comfortable, but they're not comfortable at all? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so expensive, but they're like not comfortable.
You got to break it in. It's like a 5-year thing where you have to break it in.
Right. Yeah. So, anyway, and if you pick one up at a garage sale, it's not comfy for you.
No.
Yeah.
It's a different.
Don't think about it.
It's a different butt shape.
It's like why your dad It's like why your dad loves his chair and why he gets pissed when your mom sells it at a garage sale, because he's like, it took me 5 years to break that in. It's my favorite chair. It's the most comfy thing in the world.
It's like a baseball mitt.
Yeah, yeah.
I have lubricated with my body oils for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a new pair of underwear, you know. It's like at first it's constricting, but after a while it becomes a part of you.
Yeah,
you know.
Like when you first put on that first pair of fresh undies, you're like, these are a little tight.
They're stiff.
Maybe I should get large next time. But then you're like, oh, okay. After I stretch out a little
Well,
bit.
I guess I didn't need large. Bummer.
After I clean the gutters, now they fit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
So I focused my attention back to the wall that's kind of concaved.
Attention.
So I walk a little closer, and I'm like maybe 5-6 foot away from it at the most. And what I thought was this solid metal wall, I could see through it now.
Whoa.
Once I walked closer to it, I could see through it.
It's a wall
Now,
window.
yeah, it's like this whole window, and it's probably, a good 20 foot, wall window. Again, kind of
Wall
concaved, where it's, and I can see through it, and I could see like stars and planets, and just, it's like I'm out in a galaxy somewhere.
What?
Man.
Dude.
I'm sitting there kind of freaking out and in awe and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden from the left comes this little craft. And it just, and if I could have stuck my hand through the wall, I could have touched it. That's how close it was to this wall window. It zooms past and gets about 9, maybe 10 foot past me, and it stops just right there on the dime. And it kind of does a double take. It comes back, and it's like we're face to face, face to craft.
Describe the craft to him.
It's probably about 3 foot long.
I can hear you giggling in the background.
Because I'm dying over this. All these years, it never gets boring to me. It just sounds adorable.
Oh yeah.
It's about 3 foot long. It's probably about 2 foot wide, and it's kind of shaped almost like a football or a rugby ball.
Interesting.
It's metallic. It's got little lights kind of blinking on it. It's got little wires kind of moving around and antennas kind of moving around. And I could almost feel like on the inside, something was on the inside going, look at the monkey in the window, or, look at that. What is that?
Wow.
And,
Look
I
at the
don't know.
giant monkey in the wing.
Right. Yeah. And it sat there for like 30, 40 seconds, maybe at the most. And then just zoomed off in the same direction it was going to. And the next memory I know is waking up in bed the next morning.
Being the lump in my bed.
That is insane. So there's 2 things I kind of want to break down a little bit. One is the fact that we've heard a lot of reports on people seeing these craft. They're not like massive or anything. But then when they get inside, it's huge. It's absolutely humongous. And so it kind of made me think of like
The TARDIS.
if you're inside of this craft and you're looking out, maybe you saw like another big UFO, but from the inside it just looks small.
Right.
Kind of the opposite of being in it. It's like it looks small from out here, but now I'm inside and it's massive. It's huge.
Right.
So, breaking that really quick, I know you have another
Yeah.
point, Joe, but if these craft do indeed use gravitational fields, we all know that gravity bends and does weird shit with light.
Yeah.
Who's to say that, there's some warping effect when it becomes like, oh, we're looking outside of this gravity bubble?
Yeah.
What does that do from something that's a foot away, 10 feet away, 20 feet away?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that has something to do with it.
Warps perspective. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's exactly perspective is the key there. Like, what is the perspective? Is it outside of the bubble or is it inside of this light bending bubble?
And then also kind of how you were talking about like a who would be more interested in human history than our future selves, right? So if you were in the future and able to travel back in time, that's interesting that it would be kind of like a field trip, like you were talking about, and the way that they looked at you, and you got this feeling that they were like, hey, look at that monkey. It's almost like a field trip of more futuristic, advanced humans, and they picked you up, and now you're kind of this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another thing. Joe, was that the two? Because I have a couple I want to.
Okay, and then one more, the orb aspect of this thing. It's kind of a new guy coming out. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Matthew Darwan.
Never.
He has actually, dude, that was in Louisiana too. They were out in the swamps. So so this is pretty interesting. They grew up in the backwoods swamps. They were just swamp people basically, and they had this experience where something actually came and landed in the yard.
His whole family saw it. And then
I know this one too.
Yeah, and so the whole family ended up being like PhDs and doctors and doing very well in school and very well for themselves.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. They were all just brilliant. And so he actually had an occurrence where there was this massive green light that filled their house, and he wasn't home, but his family was. And so he decided to set up these cameras, and he I guess he either owns or operates a very like high tech company that started investigating orbs, things that they were catching on the cameras. And they were actually able to catch an orb, a small orb, something that you would see like a ghost, ghost hunters, or like the little orbs.
Right.
They were actually able to capture an orb and zoom into it, and I guess the filters that they use on the cameras, they were actually able to find like little gears and working components to the orbs on the inside.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's like two sides to that, right? Like you could see a lens refraction of a light at a certain distance. It looks pretty crazy. I mean, the human eye, our brains, we want to see faces. We want to see. We want to make patterns. That's just how the human brain works.
Right.
But we tested him on that theory, and he was like, "Oh, dude, I know about that. What we're saying is not that."
Yeah, they've found these orbs to be a mechanical something mechanical.
And he like alluded to the fact like, hey, you'll hear about it soon. It's just we're trying to finish off this paper and this study. So
so his whole thing is they're trying to write a bill that his whole perspective is you spent millions and millions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars in tax money researching this stuff and these craft and everything, and you never knew about it. And the advancement of society as a whole has a lot to do with the stuff that they have found, and you as a citizen paying your tax money haven't had the opportunity to reap the benefits of what they have found. So this bill that he's introducing to Congress is basically kind of a little catch. So it's like, if you deny this bill, then that means that you're guilty of harnessing this technology for your own good. So basically, when they propose this bill to Congress, you would almost have to tell the truth
to prove that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, to prove that it doesn't exist. And if you don't, then that means that you do have the technology and you have been, exploiting, the taxpayers. And so it's a really interesting thing that his company has started doing. And just the fact that they were able to actually find little mechanical gears on the inside of these orbs is pretty fascinating.
So adding on top of fascinating is NASA is right there. It's right
Yep.
there. And let me just suggest, I wish him the best, absolutely the best. I've spent, since this has happened to us, at least the last 20 years of my life, just, as I said in the beginning, trying to get help. And I've gone beyond all that, because that has not, afforded us whatever that means. And I'm not even sure that's possible.
Yeah.
But my reality is anytime, once I discovered where NASA is, that's a whole nother ballgame. That's a whole nother ballgame. And it's a lifetime worth of study. And I wish him the best, absolutely the best, because something else has got to give here. But I suggest, we're now living in the land of NASA again, right here in Alabama. Huntsville is only a couple hours from where we are, and Huntsville is NASA. But NASA really is New Orleans. Most people are not aware of that. So anybody who's involved in any of this, we're talking about a machine that seems to rule and have a whole lot of say about who's saying and doing what in regards to any of this. But just a suggestion. The idea again of we've been telling people for the last umpteen thousand years that would listen to us, we were abducted off of a street corner,
Right.
with another human being. There are 3 of us involved in this experience, and I have something going on with my body that we don't know is not happening with Chad or with Christina.
Right.
Let me mention, Christina, she came back out of that experience that night, and very closely after that is pregnant.
Huh.
Now-
Yeah, I just realized we glazed over the arm, the object, and we glazed over, not glazed, but I mean, it's good to keep
Right.
the story going along, but it also gives us some things to kind of come back to. Yeah, so
Right.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm just like, I'm acknowledging that for the listeners that are like, wait, go back to, we didn't hear
May
about
I
that.
share with you all Christina's story?
Oh,
'Cause it's
absolutely.
not that long. It's like all of it's not bizarre. We love hearing what you said about gentlemen. Deveron, I think, is so fascinating because just yesterday, who was just sharing that with us? You two are so yummy on the phone. I can't tell whose voice is speaking.
Not a lot of
So
people can
this
tell
is
the
just-
not a lot of people can tell the
Right.
difference between us.
Yeah.
we've
And I
known each other
really
since we were
like
kids, so we kind of.
sounds.
It was
just
it was
said
Joe
Deveron.
who told that story. Yeah.
No. So Joe, the psychic you probably never knew you were, just yesterday, Chad's sitting right here. I can't make any of this up. I was watching something about New Orleans, a movie about New Orleans,
Yeah.
and the main character's name was Deveron. I had to turn it off because I said, I am so sick of the fact they can't come up with another name. Every time you see anything to do with Louisiana,
Oh, the skeleton key.
oh, okay, he's remembering the name of the movie, The Skeleton Key.
Skeleton
I-
Key.
Yeah, Kate Hudson, I think, star of this thing or whatever. And I'm like, I tried to watch it, but as soon as I found out that's the character's name, I'm like, they can't come up with a better name because you can't get a better name than Deveron
Yeah.
for every character in a movie. And I can't believe you just said that name. That is just too crazy. Chad's rubbing his head right now like, what? So if I might, because Christina's story is so different than mine and Chad's, and mine is so different than Chad's. Her story, and we're sticking with it, is Christina, let's back up before the abduction night. I don't know how much time prior to that this happened, but I'm not thinking too long. But again, I don't want to exaggerate, and I'm not trying to fill in the blanks. She had shared with me, and I think I'm the only person she told this to. And the reason why I feel like I've never actually asked her, but I think the only reason she told me this truth is because I was mixed Indian. Can't go around and just tell people what she dropped on me that I'm about to tell you all.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Chad. Okay, so here's her story, and she stuck with it. Remember, again, she's 24, single, no kids. Tall, model type, pretty, long blonde hair. She hooks up with a dude for a minute. His name is Will. I call him Dark Boy. He's adorable, but he is her polar opposite. He got long black hair, and he's got darkness about him. And there ain't nothing dark about Christina. So the minute they get together, I'm like, well, pretty little pair, but man, talk about opposites. Now, Chad and I are pretty opposites, but there's enough about us. Grandpa and I, same name. There's enough about us that seem to keep us in an interesting connection. I didn't see it with those two. So she dates him like a minute. When she decides that she's ready to move on, she decides we're going to do it. And I'm kind of paraphrasing all this. She's going to have a little heart to heart with him, and she needs to see other people. She wants to date. So she chooses an afternoon. She lived in a duplex at the time. She lived in a place called Algiers Point. Algiers Point is across the river, the Mississippi River, from the French Quarter. You got to either have a car to get back to the quarter, or you take the ferry. Is how you or bus, whatever.
Yeah.
She has a car, but a lot of times, she'd leave her car at home and she'd ferry or whatever, but most of the time she drove. She lives in a duplex. She lives all by herself with Maddie. Maddie was her pit bull mix baby. So she decides she needs to move on from Will. She decides she's going to do it in the polite way because she's very polite. She has him come over to the duplex. They're standing on her front porch. It's broad daylight. Now, she's a very touchy-feely. She likes you. She loves you. If she don't play with you.
Yeah.
So she likes Will. She doesn't want to hurt him. She just needs to get on with it. So they're having this, I call it the I like your butt story. She decides we're going to have this little powwow, and, she's going to get on with it. She says they're standing on the front porch. They are face to face, and I know her, so I know she's telling the truth. We're talking maybe inches apart in face. She says as she begins to give him this I like your butt story, she says she can feel and see him changing. First of all, emotionally. And he's doing it all very controlled. But this is her story, and she's sticking with it, and I guarantee you she don't lie. In fact, I'm not aware of her telling anybody else. She says he turned into a fucking wolf. Those are her words.
Whoa.
Right in front of her face. She said her head snapped away from it instantly. And I knew exactly what she was saying, because when I saw that I can't even describe whatever we saw in Hammond the first time up in the sky that filled the sky. It was so big I couldn't look at it. My head flipped away and I looked right at Chad.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's happening, because I was in such shock. That's what she did. Her head turned away instantly. Her head turns back. She's right there in his face. He must have shifted human again very quickly and shifted a second time.
Ooh.
She said when he did it the second time, they are eyeball to eyeball. And she said, you just turned into a fucking wolf. And she said he responded in a very startled voice. You saw that. He acknowledged what she saw. He acknowledged it. Okay.
Oh. Dude.
Well, yeah.
What does that mean? Is he okay, I mean, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but like
Don't interrupt.
Is he anyway connected to Native American blood in any way? Because there's so much folklore around the descendants of animals, different eagles and just wolves as well as like a big thing.
Beavers,
bears.
So Louisiana is the Rougarou. And they have a big festival now in honor of the Rougarou, which is the swamp werewolf.
Yep.
Rougarou. And, again, pronunciation varies because we're talking Cajun and we're talking French. And we're talking,
Canadian.
yeah. And so that we are aware of. We also had discovered that his mom, Chad says mama, I thought grandmother, but whatever the case may be, his female elder was a swamp witch. So
Wow.
And the story goes that the Rougarou would be around the swamp witch, or they would be like
they were
a
co-partner.
kind of partner or subservient to the swamp witch.
What?
Whatever the case may be,
Okay,
she's
I've never heard of the term swamp witch, but I feel like that's got to be like,
There's an interesting little documentary on the Rougarou.
yeah,
And yeah, it's a pretty cool story.
yeah. I want to know all about that. That sounds interesting. Yeah, definitely.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
send
up
me a link
until
to
this
that. I'd love to
COVID
watch.
business, their festival was slam banging. They wanted us to come there. The guy that this wealthy dude decided to start acknowledging this folklore that most don't see as folklore in that part of the country.
Yeah.
And he put his money where his mouth was, and they started creating this festival, this town festival, honoring this Rougarou, and everybody shows up in costume and regalia,
Right
and
there around
so on and
Mardi-
so forth. Somewhere around
Halloween.
but prior to Halloween, where the whole town gets involved in this. But the whole objective supposedly is to build money, to generate money to build the swampland, what the hay is all of the surrounding land.
Yeah, like the
big
wetlands?
The wetlands.
wetlands.
Thank you.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
all
they're like a really
being destroyed.
important ecosystem that just really,
Exactly.
yeah, it's like the ground zero. We have a lot of that in Texas as well, near Galveston
Exactly.
and all that.
So, dude,
Yeah.
we've never met him, but we contacted him before we moved, back to Louisiana, about the time that we knew the book was going to come out, our little book and so on, and told him, we had this new little book being published and so on and so forth. And he was so generous to us, inviting us to come to this festival to vendor and to advertise our book, and
Maybe
really
even
generous
speak
to
or-
us and so on. We didn't make it, and now of course COVID, and so all of that is somewhat, I guess, trying to still happen, but virtual and this and that. So we've never actually been there, but it's in Houma, Louisiana. Houma, I might mention, if you all don't know, Houma was the land, birth and death, buried there, if I'm not mistaken, of Jesse Marcel. Jesse Marcel is the main dude in the story about Roswell.
Right.
Oh, so why does that sound
Yeah.
familiar?
Yeah.
Because his son, Jesse Marcel Jr., who I understand has passed or died in the last few years, he was trying to carry on, Dad's
Legacy.
thank you, legacy. But Jesse Marcel was the commander of the nuclear base. He was the hotshot of the nuclear base in Roswell for the Roswell crash.
Yeah.
And Houma is his home. That's where he's born.
Very
Raised-
interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's weird. That's a strange connection there. Like
Very
yeah.
strange. I
Yeah.
just thought I'd interject that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, just as weird as us introducing Wolfie Boy in the middle of this UFO
Wolfie
stuff.
boy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's Wolfie Boy for me.
I just
So-
love the names. The
Yeah.
different names.
Just can't help myself. I just can't help myself.
Caboys, Wolfie
That's
boy.
right. Listen, and the little story we'll share with you all before we part that dude has shared with us today. I nicknamed him many years ago Sparky. So he wrote me Sparky's UFO story today, and I just died laughing.
That's so
Because-
great.
Yeah, he's Sparky, and there's a very good reason why I gave him that name. So back to Wolfie Boy. So she's, shared this with us. Okay. And like I said, I think we're the only ones who know this. She ain't around advertising this kind of thing. Let me also say, she's the kind of chick where she ain't going back. It's one thing when she wants to part as friends. It's another you scare the stuffing out of her. And I'm pretty sure she's done with you.
Yeah.
So it's not her intention to ever want to see him again, or my understanding. Okay. So now we'll fast forward. And as I said, this happened relatively, again, in time frame, shortly before we went poof or abducted off that street. Now, let me also mention, before we lose any more in this story, that street is called Frenchman Street. That this actually, Chad's regression told him that we were abducted on. Frenchman Street in 97 was dead. It was a dead street.
Yeah, there was only like local kind of, it was
And
more
even
of
at
a
that,
local kind of place.
I don't remember nothing about Frenchman Street.
Huh.
It was Bourbon Street back in
Oh, yeah,
97.
Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
Nothing about this Frenchman Street. Well, let me just say this. Frenchman Street now is the new Bourbon.
Right.
All the movies, shows, all the hot bars, all the everything
All the good music.
are on that street now. That got electrified. That's just interesting. That's just interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because back in 97, it was dead. It was dark and dead. And now, that's the only place to go if you go to New Orleans.
Interesting.
That's where you'll be guided, is that street where we went.
It's where the locals and the tourists kind of meet.
So with that said, just interjecting that, back to Christina, her story. So she got this Wolfie Boy experience. She done. Okay. Now, next thing she knows, we go poof. And she says, this is what she told me happened to her. She claims she remembers semi because she gets pretty drowsy sounding. As I get her to write the story years later, her recall is not there.
Right.
She's indicating she's pretty much agreeing with whatever I say. Well, that's not how we wanted this to go.
Yeah, right.
Right. But I'm understanding because, again, the way she responded to me when I saw her 2 days after we went poof, it was like, yeah, I know it happened. I know something happened. I know, but I'll just live with it. Okay. So that when this happens to us, this is what she says she remembers. She says she has no memory of coming off the street. Just like I've said to you, she remembers semi the way I've described how that night went down, that hour and a half. We're out there, no alcohol, no drugs, nobody.
And even if we did, I mean, an hour and a half is not a, long time it's not enough time to have anything like that.
Right.
And so she says that the next thing she knows is somewhere between 3 and 4 in the morning. Now, her last memory is 11-ish, like Chad and I. But from 11-ish till 3 or 4 in the morning, it's gone. She has nothing. There's nothing there. But the next thing she knows, she's behind the steering wheel of her moving car.
Whoa.
What?
Right. Her car, she says, is moving slowly. And it hit a parked car. She hit a parked car, and it knocked off her rear view mirror. And she claims that's what jolted her too. She claims also that she's in another section of the city from where she parked the freaking car that morning. She parked that car up the street from our shop that morning. Now she's miles away, somewhere else, in her car.
That's insane.
What?
Yeah. Oh, and again, it gets better. There's more.
I bet.
She says the car seems to be driving itself, and it's heading to Wolfie Boy's house.
What?
Oh, shit.
I can't make it up. I am not a good writer. I could not make this up, even if it sounds like a lousy story. I couldn't make this up.
You're a really good reader, but,
A lousy writer. She says, now Wolfie Boy lives in the hood. He lives in a section of the city she don't want to be at 3 or 4 in the morning. She says he lives in like a fourplex, like a big old house. You can almost see it like in some scary movie that's been converted into like 4 apartments. It's got a huge iron gate kind of thing around it. It sounds like normally is locked, not this morning when she pulls up. She says she gets out of her car, she goes up through this open gate, that shouldn't be. She goes up the steps. He's got the downstairs apartment. She said she gets up to the steps and I think he's got a screen door, if I understood correctly. Whatever, the door is open. Excuse me. She says he's sitting underneath a light, like maybe a hanging lamp, and he's playing guitar. She said he stops playing the freaking guitar, he sits it down, and he looks at her and he says, either we've been waiting for you or I've been waiting for you. Pick your creepy line.
Damn.
She says she goes in the house. Now, this is a woman who does not do these things. This is what she lives for. Back in the day when she's 24, and now we got how many years since 97? 23 years. You can do the math. Got her master's in environmental science, has raised this amazing son who's now got a degree running some art museum, something. I mean, she's created an amazing life for herself. And yet she says, and she goes into this house, he puts that guitar down and makes that statement to her. She says she starts becoming, my word, controlled hysteria. I don't remember ever seeing her cry. She's a very happy kind of chick, but she's also one of these black and white, to me, kind of chicks also.
Yeah.
Her life was trying to save children and animals. That she's lived her whole life for this, the betterment of children and animals. And of course, Mother Earth. I mean, environmental science.
Yeah.
So she's not somebody who backs down very easily with that said to you, but she claims that she's standing there and she starts falling apart, my words, at the seams. The hysterical, kind of controlled hysteria. She says he guides her into a room, lays her down, and she says she cried herself to sleep. She said, like, and I'm kind of filling it in. It feels to me like she indicated like a couple of hours, because she's getting there somewhere 3 and 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
At this point now, the sun is just starting to rise, so I'm kind of filling that in. She's been there whatever time for the sun to rise. She said she wakes up, she's dressed. It doesn't appear that he's done anything to her, and she said she got up and she got the fuck out of there, and she never looked back. Now that's her story, and she's sticking with it.
Yeah.
Shit.
Wow.
If I can finish the Wolfie Boy story.
Yeah, he sounds like a creeper, dude.
We're talking a powerful creeper, because this happened in 97. Now, fast forward to 2001. Chad and I have come completely apart at the seams. We have come apart at the seams. Chad left me. Sorry. I stayed behind in New Orleans. Chad left the state and went to family, actually where we are now, here in Alabama. We parted, and I never imagined we'd come back together. We absolutely came apart. And then, so we're, interestingly enough, 3 months apart again. That's how long that duration took. While that's
the number
happening,
3.
Right. While that's happening, I'm continuing to work. I'm on my own. I'm not doing well at all, but I'm maintaining my job, but I'm not doing well at all. I'm coming apart. And I come out of work one day, and strangely enough, the French Quarter was packed. Because, we've told you that night it happened to us, there was nobody there.
Yeah.
But on this day, we got a normal day, it would appear. It's beautiful. It feels like it's April-ish, somewhere in that time frame. Fabulous weather, unusual. And I remember, just breathing it in. I can remember that. It was so, because Quarter is hot and humid and crazy. On this day, it just felt light. Lots of people strolling about. I come out of work. I'm off for the afternoon, what have you. All of a sudden, somebody's yelling my name, like across the little crowd. And I'm like, what? And I look, and there's this dude that I hadn't seen in years. His name is Rich. Rich is originally from Montauk, New York. I don't know if you all know anything about Montauk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where he's from. Uh-huh. So we befriended each other years prior. He's a traveling artist. I'm pretty sure he's a freaking being, because I am not convinced he's human.
He's almost like 7 foot tall, but
did you hear what
thin
Chad
as
just
a
said?
rail.
Damn.
Almost 7
Shit.
feet tall and thinner than Chad. He's an artiste. And so I hadn't seen him in years. But you can't miss him over a crowd when he's 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
And he's yelling, Alta, right? Okay. I'm like 5'4", 5'5". So I see him. I'm all lit up. I'm so happy to see him. We get together. We hug. He says, or something or other, let's get a drink. Okay, so we go to a little outdoor cafe. We're sitting down. I ordered a beer. He ordered a Coke, as in Coca-Cola. I thought, odd. Okay, we'll have a drink. He's rolling a cigarette. Now, as he's got his little box out and he's rolling his cigarette, we get our Coke, get the beer. Next thing I know, he's learning that Chad and I have split. Now, he's acting very upset because nobody could believe.
No.
It's not a part of the
Chad
timeline,
Alta.
you guys. It's not a part of the it's not a part of the projected timeline. You guys need to get back on the timeline of
right.
You guys need to be together, right? Like we were talking about in the first episode, like
Yeah.
it was meant to be that you're supposed to be together.
I mean, because nobody could understand
No,
this.
because, I mean, it wasn't, we had the relationship, Alta didn't have a girls' night out, and I didn't have a guys' night out,
No, Chad likes the girls, and we girls like Chad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are always together,
And
no
we're
matter
known
what.
as Chalta. As
ridiculous
as it may sound,
Yeah.
we're known as Chalta.
I was referring to like the Men in Black story from the first episode
Yeah.
where it was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Right.
hey, so we're interjecting
Exactly.
we're interjecting into this timeline to make you guys be together.
Totally.
That's
Totally. Oh, I got you from the moment you spoke, sir.
okay.
Absolutely. We on the same page.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
So as I'm feeling his, I hate the word compassion, but as I'm feeling his empathy towards me and shock, it seemed, over our separation, all of a sudden it was like, that old butterfly, his attention shifted instantly. And he no longer seemed to give a shit about Chad and Alta and our woes. He looks at me right in the face and he says, hey, have you heard about Will? I'm like, first of all, I have to breathe because I can't believe, because I'm dying over telling him about Chad and Alta not being together, and I'm dying. And then all of a sudden, like I said, butterfly, now I've got to shift instantly and take in what he's just said to me. Hey, have you heard about Will? Well, Will, I say to him, Dark Boy? Are you talking about Dark Boy? I didn't know you knew Will. And then I'm thinking, okay, because I'm trying to put some logic in here someplace, some rationale somewhere. So that's how my mind is working in all these different traps. And so then I'm saying, well, shit, Will was a dark boy and kind of a freak, and
Musician.
and Rich is an artist and a freak from Montauk, and I guess freaks know freaks, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, we were not a circle who understood each other. We were not friends that were partying together, hung with each other. So him throwing that name out at me came out of nowhere, out of left field. So finally I kind of, get my grip as best I could. And I'm like, and just looking at him with my mouth, I think, strangely enough, hanging open. And he responds with, yeah, he's gone around telling everybody he got to catch a bus and get out of town because the aliens are after him. Now that's how he said it to me.
What?
Now,
What?
just effing say that. He did not just say that. Now at this point, I'm ready that conversation to, I don't know, go wherever it's going. Well, this is where it went. He's got to go. He's got to go. He stands up. He puts his little tobacco box back together. He doesn't even drink his freaking Coke. Again, I don't remember drinking my beer. And he's got to go.
Wow.
So
Stand up.
after hearing that you guys have split up, he's like, "Oh shit, we gotta go." I gotta go. Is that
Before that, after he inserts to me, have I heard about Will? And the aliens are after him.
Yeah.
He's got to go. Right.
weird?
So we hug goodbye. But again, strangely enough, my mouth's hanging open, which is very unusual. As you can tell, I talk a lot. And at that point now, I go beyond being puzzled, confused. And as I said a few times before, I'm pissed. I'm very pissed. I'm angry. I feel this like overwhelming. I'm looking around for cameras. I know I'm on some freaking candid camera show, and the joke's on me. That's all.
She's being punked.
I'm being punked. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
That's all that I could grasp. That's the only thing. It's the only thing that I could grasp. And so, yeah, that's the Christina story, kind of
Wow.
her story, and then the weirdness of that. And then
Man.
my experience is totally different than either one of them.
Yeah, wow. There's so much to break down, you guys. Like, I know we're ending our 3-hour mark, and like, I kind of just want to really quick, just like for a moment, realize how much we've covered tonight. And I'm just, man, there's so many questions I have, and man, I'm so intrigued by you guys' story. I'm so thankful for you guys spending the time and sharing with us and our listeners. Man, I'm starting like Chad, the story, your experience with the blue alien, not just the blue being, but the multiple beings and the spacecraft. I mean, man, there's so much detail in there
Yeah.
that I feel like I didn't get to, but
That was mind blowing.
yeah, honestly, like it's kind of good because we can come back to that, because I feel like it's going to be like, okay, let's tell your story and then let's break it down afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no structure to this story. It's literally just a conversation that you and us are having. It's like our listeners are, you guys that are listening, it's just like us sitting around a campfire drinking beer. Like there's no
Right.
structure. And
That's what we're so enjoying. It's so wonderful. That's just what it feels like. We're around a campfire drinking a beer.
Right?
absolutely.
No pressure, just a conversation.
Yeah,
Between
absolutely.
people.
Yeah,
Sure.
and yeah, you guys are just such beautiful souls, and just, man, y'all are so open and willing to just talk about your experience, and like we said earlier, like, it's for anyone else out there that has their own story. This should be an example of like, hey, this stuff happens to a lot of other people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's the message at the end of the day, right? Like, this is
Right.
you guys are normal people. We've listened to you guys talk for a lot of hours, and we can tell you're not crazy, okay? Like, you guys are like normal people.
Yeah.
We are.
You know, it's
We're not
just
crazy.
yeah, y'all are just such loving, passionate and positive people. I can tell. It just it's great to just talk to you guys and just get to know you. I think most shows are like, hey, answer this question. Hopefully we've been able to just kind of dig into a little more deeper, and I just love y'all storytelling. So yeah, yes. So
It's like, it's almost like we've known each other for, ever.
Ever.
Because, I mean, you guys are easy to talk to, it's comfortable. Like you said, it's like
We're campfire
sitting
having a
around
beer.
the campfire having a beer.
Yeah.
hell yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, like I said before, I mean, this isn't a gotcha kind of show. We're not here to get anybody. I mean, everybody has a story of some kind. Everybody has an experience that maybe they just can't explain. And it's important to just get that out. Some people have more than others. And, I think that's just part of being human, is these unanswered, puzzling questions and things that just happen to us. I mean, it's one of those things where we just, we do the best we can. We have our everyday life, but then occasionally we have the oddities that come out. And, to me personally, that makes life exciting.
Yeah.
That's right. And where the insight came from, I know I inundated you with lots of information I kept sending to you as it was coming to me. to just try to share and fill in some blanks about, us and our past and so on. I don't know if either of you caught the baby announcement that I sent to you that indicates that I thought I'm an only child. I was told I was an only child to my mother and my father. I'm named after my father.
Right.
His name was Alta. But a few years after my mother died, I'm going through a box of photos that I knew who I am, which is not real well, but I knew those photos because when you don't have a family, those photos become very important. And all of a sudden, I come across a little envelope I'd never seen before in my life, never heard of in my life, and my mother's handwriting, very descriptive handwriting. And it's post-dated, and it has been sent through the Postal Service a day after my birth. And I showed you that. I took a picture. Chad took a picture of that.
Yeah.
And when you open that little baby announcement up, it says that the name is Pandora.
Mm-hmm.
And when you shared with me the last time the concept of Pan and ambrosia and all of these things that we have never been able to put together, and then all of a sudden, I needed you to see this Pandora baby announcement, because that's not a word that had ever been used in my life.
Right.
I have no idea who, what, and how the hell did it get back into my pictures?
Yeah.
40 years later.
From an aunt in California.
Yeah, from an aunt I'd only met once in my life, long distance, and right. So
Wow.
when you threw in the Pan part of this, and as I said, the ambrosia stuff, I sent you a little text very quickly because it's so freaky. My mother-in-law walks in the day after we spoke the first time. She shoves an apple at me. She knows I love fruit and whatever, and she loves apples, and she knows apples, and she shoves one apple at me, and she's all happy and smiling, saying, "This is ambrosia." And I'm like, I fell off my chair.
No.
I couldn't effing believe that she had just done this. The day after
we just talked
this
about
conversation.
Wow.
Then,
What
as we
the
wind this
hell?
down, that night, I turned on the freaking television that I don't watch a lot of until maybe late at night when I want to go to sleep. I turned on Ancient Aliens that I hadn't seen in a billion years. And the night I turned it on, it's all about ambrosia.
No.
And I'm like,
Come on.
this is not happening. I yell at Chad in the other room, like, this is not happening.
Come here.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Dude.
Wow.
We just had so much fun with you all. I'll just interject with you last, since not hearing my part of this. The being that I was with that night was not any of those that Chad was with, that he's described, and he was with several. Certainly was not a wolfy boy. And, what everybody else is calling a Nordic, which I find offensive because I just don't buy into this language. She just happened to be the most physically beautiful female I'd ever seen in my life with long blonde hair. And I just mentioned she was never a part of their experience. So whatever this is all about, whatever any of this is all about, let the story continue. And for anybody out there that is hearing this, please trust these two with this beautiful show called UFO Garage, because they feel so sincere. And I know that you all are, and we just can't thank you both enough for all this time that you've given us to express where we've been able to get this far into this. And just look so forward to you all growing. We're going to do everything we can in our little way, to let the world know you exist. And if you don't mind, I wouldn't, if you'd be open to it, I'd love to send you the text that I got from our friend here that had his experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Heck yeah.
1989. In this small little town that we now currently live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
absolutely.
love that. And also, I mean, if there's a part 3, I would love to do it.
We have, part 30. So we're at y'all beck and call. You haven't heard anything about the monkey lizard yet.
Not
You
yet.
haven't heard anything about
there's-
Chad's family having the same UFO experiences as we've had, and
Yes.
Sasquatchy, I might add. So There's a lot.
I think there's much more to dig in, man. I think we're in for
Absolutely.
the long haul here. For
Absolutely.
Sure.
I think that, yeah, because I'm kind of at this point dedicated to getting as much of your story as possible.
Yeah.
Awesome. We've
Yeah.
got
So-
it to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, even if it's not, every week, I mean, we got to do at least, every other week, maybe like a once a month thing, so we can get this, get this all down.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to.
Us.
Yeah.
We'd like to mention also, we've got a little couple. They have their little, it's just a husband and wife, young couple, live in Mississippi, who actually are the first folks to take us serious, who have dedicated themselves. They have a little, their organization is called Southern Ascension. And they are working very hard to get the world to take recognition of what's happened to us and what's happening to us.
They actually drove from Mississippi on their dime, came to us in New Orleans.
To spend a few days to
we walked around the French Quarter and did some videos of where, when, and how, and all that kind of stuff. So,
but they're so worthy of acknowledgement. And again, because they're that generation, they're in their 20s, and they are so interested in what's happening with us. And we're just so grateful, no matter where anything goes. So
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
We thank you for the opportunity to share their names with you. And they're working very hard. They got a producer on television right now who's very interested in what's happening with us.
Oh, wow.
That's not necessarily been my thing as far as all that business is concerned. But by all means, whatever it takes to let people know that this is happening, and also for others to know it's okay to be on. It's okay to tell. It's okay.
Definitely.
If just to find the courage to do it, because it is a very interesting road. And thank God you all exist. All of you younger folks out there that are interested in what's happening to us, and we just can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. I feel like there's so much more to tell about the story. This is part 2, but there's going to be so many more parts. I want to continue to talk to you guys.
Listen, if you don't have somebody showing up for a show, or you need somebody to fill in the blanks, you give us a call.
have your machine call out.
Yeah, have your machine call out.
I have so many more questions. So I mean, I'm excited to have the next episode with you guys.
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen soon.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
So full.
with Thanksgiving coming up, we might have a skip week. So we'll definitely as soon as possible have you guys back on.
We all gonna turkey day it, and we look so forward because the house that we've moved back to, just a month ago, Chad. We've been back since October. This was a home we lived in back in the day. We left here in 2011 and have just returned. This is a location we've had phenomenal experiences at in this backyard we're sitting in right now talking to you.
Really?
So we look forward to sharing all with you.
Oh,
heck
man,
yeah.
I'm super excited about that.
Hell yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, hey, y'all. Love you guys. Thank you guys so much
And
for
to
being on
you.
tonight.
And to your families again for allowing us to have this time with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Happy holiday. Happy
Yeah.
Turkey Day.
Happy
Turkey Day.
Right on.
Awesome.
Everybody have a wonderful night. Thanks for everything.
Thank you guys so much. This
Yes.
was amazing.
Yeah, well, we really enjoy, sharing our experiences, and especially with you guys. After tonight, you're top.
Hell yeah.
Well,
man.
thank you very much,
Hey,
man. I mean, it's this whole thing started just as a fun thing for me and Ben to talk about, but then it kind of evolved into this. It's still a very fun thing for us, but I mean, it's kind of taken not like a serious tone, but I mean, we find it to be kind of a very important outlet for people like y'all. And so we take that aspect of it seriously,
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's great because you've got camaraderie, between, at least, us and you guys. You got, where we can bounce off of each other. But you also, again, you guys are very serious, and I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to have a good time, but we also like to, make the joke here and there. And like, man, it was just, so fun to just kind of work through your guys' experiences, like, and compare it to other stories that we've heard and like learn together. And the listener that's listening is like, oh shit, I would never have thought of that. And it's just a very unique experience. So you guys have been awesome. And will be awesome in the future. That's not like an ending. So if anybody is listening, like, this is not the last time we're talking to Chad and Alta. So yeah. All right, guys. We'll talk to you guys soon, and we'll be in touch on Facebook. I know I've been away from Facebook messages, so I'm going to be messaging you guys. I've got a couple of things to share with you guys that I haven't spoke about. Based on so I'm excited to share that with you guys. We'll talk off air, and we'll be talking in between the next time we have you guys back on the show. So
definitely,
awesome. Absolutely. All right, guys.
Make sure that somebody gets us an address that we can send books.
Yes,
we'll do that. As soon as we get off, we'll send it to you.
I told you the book, but we'd really love to share with you. So
definitely, we'll send you an address as soon as we get off.
Absolutely. Everybody have a wonderful night.
You too. Definitely.
Too. We'll do it.
All right, guys. Well, we'll talk to y'all later.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.
Right.
Dope.
Well, again, man, part 2, pretty epic. I mean, this story is just massive.
It's massive.
It's massive.
Do we cut this into 2 because the next couple of weeks is going to be Thanksgiving, and then
Well, I mean, we might.
That's not our MO, but I mean, it's an option.
I think we keep it 1. I think we keep it 1.
Love that. I just needed you to tell me that that's what we should do.
I think we should keep it 1 because I think this one is shorter than the last one.
It is going to be shorter.
It's a little shorter. Keep it 1, man. People loved it. So I mean, this story is it's huge.
It is
huge. So definitely, man, I think we should keep it 1. And then
let's keep. I agree. I just needed you the affirmation.
Yeah,
like that's our brand, right? Not like okay, let's get more out of it. Like by sectioning it off into 2.
Yeah, this is what happened tonight.
And let's stick to it.
Let's stick to it, man.
Love that.
Yeah, dude.
And I know there's some listeners out there that are probably like, God, these episodes are fucking so long. But okay, well, if you're on a really long drive that's like 3.5 hours, like from Austin to Houston or Anahuac, Texas, like, man, that's a perfect time.
Or like Steve, he's got those long drives. That's when he listens to the podcast.
Steve,
William, same thing. He's got those long drives. So like, there's people who, me, my job consists of driving around to job sites and making sure things are cool. So.
Well, I appreciate you, talking me through this, and now I am okay. Fine. Fine.
Yeah.
Dude, but holy shit, man, there's so much I want to dig into.
Me too.
So Chad's story, I feel like we, out of the time that we spent talking about other things, we should next time maybe let's start with Chad's. Like, hey, let's go back. I know there's more to the story. And I know I did say, like, let's get through the whole story and then go back.
Yeah.
But, like, I am so intrigued by the amount of detail in Chad's story. Like, he just went past, like, oh, there was a window that was curved and was once metal and now it's see-through.
It kind of reminds you of the see-through aluminum that I was showing you the other day.
Yes. Like, dude, I almost was, like, gonna be banging on you, like,
yeah.
But yeah. I knew that's where your head was. I assumed.
Just the description, man, the smoothness.
Yeah.
There's no rivets. That's and like Bob Lazar, he said the same thing.
No
He was
rivets.
like, you go in there, there's no rivets.
Right.
It's all smooth. It's like one little piece. Like,
and it makes me think of like we have this technology now for like bathroom windows, like the whole door to the bathroom is like clear, and then you switch a light. switch and it like makes it cloudy.
Yep,
I don't
yep.
know what the science is behind that, but like, bro, if we can figure it out, like aliens can figure out a way
Aliens already
better
figured
solution.
it out.
Yeah. They could probably turn like water into metal by the switch of a button. Like no problem.
His little dream about the window, it kind of reminded me of what I assumed to be a dream, but now after hearing his little account, it's like that kind of makes me wonder. I had this dream where I was in this dark ass room. It was almost like a lunchroom cafeteria type vibe.
Yeah.
And it was really strange.
Oh shit, we
what was that?
lost video. One
Uh-oh.
sec.
Uh-oh. Pause for the cause.
Pause for the call. So last time it worked when I unplugged it and then started again.
Make sure you go to UFOGaragePC.com. We should just cut it in the middle of my
cut it
dream
off.
story.
Yeah, dude, that's like the most shit.
Oh my gosh.
Let's pause.
Well,
You wanna
yeah,
pause?
I mean, nah, we can just keep going. I mean, this is going to be the very end,
Yeah, it's
anyways.
fine.
We'll
It's
just
fine.
we'll just put some cool T-shirts, UFO Garage T-shirts
hell
up for
yeah,
the end of
dude.
this part. But I had this dream. It seemed like it was very, very dark, and there was a couple people that were talking to me, but they weren't people. They were people-ish almost.
Oh, shit.
They were like in like, I guess it was like a white kind of lab coat,
Okay.
but they were more brown looking, and I can't see faces. That's why I like asked him. It was like kind of this dream thing where it was like kind of fuzzy. They were brown. I couldn't really make out faces.
Right.
But as I'm looking through this room, there's this big ass window off to the front, and all I can see is space, just
Right.
dark, and there's just stars everywhere.
I'm seeing like the port where in Star Wars they park all the
That's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah.
It was just all enclosed, and
Yeah.
instead of that like light shield thing,
right.
it was kind of a concaved like window, and it just wrapped around like half of the room.
Okay,
and
so
then
the motion you made with your hand was like this, but when maybe it's just my brain, when I was thinking of concave, I thought it was going in, but this makes way more sense.
Yeah, no, it was like
XY versus what's the other one? Wait, XY. All right, keep going.
there's only 3 letters, X, Y, and Z.
In the 4th dimension, there's like Z and Q. I'm so fucking dumb.
Man, no, I mean,
Sorry, keep going.
if you imagine kind of a saucer shape, right? But instead of like tapering down into like these thin edges, if it was just more round, like a donut, if it was like a donut,
Yeah.
half the donut was closed off, right? And then
Yeah.
the other side of the donut had this cool window on the front of it. That's what it. That's
Are
what
you
it
talking
kind of.
about a dream that you had right
I'm
now?
talking about a dream that I had.
Fuck, that's a cool dream.
Yeah, and it was really weird because I wasn't like scared,
Yeah.
but I wasn't like.
Were you standing?
Yeah, I was standing.
Were you observing a craft, or were you learning?
I was inside of something, and I'm standing like, if you can imagine like a cafeteria room almost, but there was like round tables, and I know that there was people, things, beings, I don't know.
Yeah.
They were sitting just randomly, and they weren't like everybody was at every single table. It was like some tables had 2, some tables had like 5. It was like your typical like, but everything was black. The floor was black, the ceiling was black, everything was black, but there was some kind of, it was lit. I could see, but I feel like the light was coming from the stars from outside, and it was just shining in the window, and I could, I don't know, like I wasn't scared or anything,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It was just such a random dream. And then when he said that, I was like, what the fuck?
It made you remember that dream.
It made me remember that dream.
There were so many. I mean, I'm trying not to like sound like I'm trying to piggyback off of or like do whatever, but like there were so many moments off of little details that both of Alta and Chad were saying that like triggered memories of mine. that like either in real life or like dream things that I've thought of. Dude, so I relate in that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way. Certain things that they said like kind of triggered like these, oh shit. I kind of feel like I may have experienced something like that as well. Except for you're more cognizant of it and I'm not.
Yeah, so that's the big thing for me. I mean, I guess for like 3 times out of this whole 3 hours, we like stopped for a second and like, I mean, we just all 4 gave, praise to just like, hey, this is cool what we're doing. Like, I'm just glad we're talking to each other. Awesome that you're on the show. Hey, thanks for having us on your show. But also like this stuff that we're talking about it can often be described as like, oh, this is just a dream, and like people that don't know anything about this shit. And it's good to talk to some people that have such a vivid memory.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about like weird dreams that you have, I don't have any weird dreams like that I have such vivid descriptions of comparative to what they have. So I guess my point is that I kind of went all over the place with that, but the point is the detail that they're allowed or able to go through with their experiences, and whether it be a dreamlike state or actual reality, who the fuck knows? We live in a simulation anyway.
Yeah.
But you know what really got me tonight?
What's that?
is the gradient between the hand, the blue
dude,
being.
holy shit.
And like no one asked him what the skin looked like.
Yeah.
No one asked. And he said it was this blue, and there was, okay, let me tell you, I mean, this guy, I fucking love Chad, dude. He's like so just to the point and like just a good fucking guy.
Yeah.
He's not trying to, it doesn't sound like he's trying to sell you on anything, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Alta is either. She's a great storyteller and she's not trying to sell anything either. I'm just saying like Chad in a way is more, he gets to the point a little faster with details, and what he was able to do, I mean, comparative to other stories that I've heard, is say something so out of the ordinary that I've never heard before. Like that level of detail. I think we both know who I would be talking about with the person that was supposedly had thousands of dissections with alien entities in his career. Well, I don't know if that guy's lying or if he's true, but he is connected to, I won't say his name, but he's never talked about gradients in skin from the top of these alien beings to the palm of their hands.
It's like, yeah, I did this. Okay, details? Well, they were aliens.
Yeah, there's no fucking details.
No
dude.
details whatsoever.
Nothing like that, dude.
And then this guy gets abducted in the French Quarter.
Right.
Then ends up getting a regression and remembers like and even when he was like, it was like a quarter, maybe like $1 size.
Yeah, $50.
The thing.
Right.
And then he did the whole Buddha Jesus hand thing.
Yeah. I think I threw up a Baphomet sign, and I'm sorry about that for the person that's been watching our videos.
But even the statue, like the Baphomet statue, he does the same thing. So
he does the same. Yeah, Baphomet does the same hand signals as Krishna.
Yeah. Yep. And even Jesus has it too. Jesus does it too.
Yeah,
the Buddha, and that's one of the weird things about all these like, paintings and stuff. What's up with this hand? Why are they all doing this?
Yeah, I initially
all of them.
I did this, but then when I saw you're like, I think you're correct. I don't think that's right. I think
it's like these 2 fingers are down.
Yeah, but how the fuck do you do that?
It's like that.
Oh, I'm doing it wrong. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
No, it's like a peace sign, but they have the fingers
do
together.
It like this. What the fuck does that mean, dude?
Yeah, I don't know. But, the Baphomet statues, the Jesus, the Buddhas, like they all have this hand signals, Krishna, like all of them.
So out of all of the connection that we've been able to make so far with their story, like, dude, let's be honest, it's kind of all over the place. And there's, I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but I feel like they've really experienced the spectrum. Like we're going from like Greek mythology to aliens to Christianity. Like
werewolves,
werewolves, dude. Like, I mean, voodoo. And then, okay, we'll bring it back to the Christianity thing. Like, that's such a very specific thing to mention when an alien being is manipulating some type of substance. You could just say, oh, yeah, he just held it in his hands. But no, he said he did this symbol with his hand. Like, that's so specific. Who the fuck would make that up, dude?
Yeah.
It just makes me believe him, man. Like, that's
just yeah. That substance, the blue substance that started spinning, rotating
sparkly.
super fast, and then turned into like this crystal. You know how like Eric was talking about the magnet spinning and then creating the fuck, what's it called? The
Schmemer.
schmemer. The schmemer. The neuron. There you go. Where they were able to actually get the thing to fire a neuron.
And it made like this brilliant blue color.
Yeah. So it kind of was like, okay, so he had this substance full of sparkly metal stuff.
Yes.
Right? Spinning fast enough.
Right.
Started glowing blue. If you spin that magnet fast enough, neuron wise, would it create this? Would it create something? Would it create a reality? Would it create a universe? Would it create something? Right?
Oh shit.
You know what I'm saying? Because if
Yeah. So sorry. Go ahead.
if energy is this consciousness that they talk about, and then the universe is made of all of this shit, then who's to say that, yeah, we were able to spin a magnet to fire a neuron, which is the energy that it takes to have this consciousness in the first place. If you took it a step further and you were able to spin these magnets even faster, who's to say you couldn't make a basketball or a table? Or you know what I'm saying? Like the how they say like everything, like if you were to vibrate different things at different frequencies, like your table, if you vibrated it at a different frequency, turns into a TV.
Yeah, if you zoom in close enough to this table, you will find space in between these molecules. There's more space in this table than there are actual wood or wood particle molecules.
Right.
So like, yeah, I love that train of thought. Like, so okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're alluding to is this being spinning some matter that's the size of a quarter or a $50. You could probably turn that in the parameters that we're speaking of. You could turn that into an entire planet if you wanted to. Because there's more space than there is matter.
Exactly.
So it just depends on how dense that object is or whatever it's made of, right? Like how much space does it occupy? So he could be like showing off like, hey, I'm about to create the next Mars, dude. Check this out.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, boom.
Yeah. So
Charizard Pokemon card. Holographic, bitches.
In its case.
In its case,
never touched.
But to us, spinning that magnet to create the neuron was the first step of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, if we can continue to rotate these metals in different vibrations and like different speeds, what else can you create? Maybe that was just something that they do. He was like, I'm going to create this crystal for you.
Well, yeah. So what was I almost like blacked out consciously between that time. I was just trying to like
processing everything that's going on.
I swear my system is like a Windows 95.
You do that sometimes because they would like finish the story and you'd be like, okay, so the beginning of the story is and then they would have to like explain the end.
And then I look over and you like look at me slowly like, you idiot. Well, thanks for not calling me out. But okay. Oh shit! I was gonna make a point.
But if you do that, there's hundreds of other people who are doing the exact same thing. Well, and they appreciate it.
Well, when there's like when you're 3 hours in, I mean, I'm guilty of it. I kind of trail off. So what I tried to do was
bring it back.
There was an intent. I wasn't like purposely.
No, I know.
Dumb.
I didn't. Hey, I didn't say anything because I completely understand.
So Fuck, I had a point I was gonna make. Shit. So I blanked out like in between the time the alien showed Chad this substance. What happened after that? Like, what happened after that?
Well, then he walked up to the window.
But what happened to the substance? He was like fucking fondling in his
It turned into a crystal.
Okay, so then the crystal, and then
two sharp-sided crystal.
Yeah,
and it was completely see-through.
And then what?
And then he walked up to the window.
Wait, the alien was like, "Isn't this fucking cool?"
Yeah.
Hey, look what I can do.
So when they come back on, we'll have to ask him specifically. So what up with the crystal?
What up with that?
Because I think that was something that kind of got glossed over.
Yeah, and I feel like we need to go back and go like, Chad, dude, tell us about that fucking crystal.
Yeah.
Also, tell us about the Nazca, the Nazca mummies.
Yeah.
Anaconda mummy. Because, dude, the alien that he was describing, that
The mama condom.
Mama condom.
Mama condom mommy.
the three fingers and then the appendageable thumb, like grabbing the arm, like that was the impression.
I think it's opposable thumb.
I'm falling apart. I'm falling from the scenes.
It's the appendageable.
We're almost at 4 hours and I'm falling a fucking apart. This is why we end at 3
Oh my
3 hours.
God.
All right, let's end it there.
All right, guys, don't forget to go check out UFO Garage podcast. Yeah, UFO Garage PC. Sorry. Actually, first off, let me start this off by saying, go check out Redeemer Small Batch, because that's where it's at.
Oh, damn.
And maybe that's why we're so scatterbrained, because we didn't have any Redeemer today.
Yeah, we didn't have any CBD.
We usually been getting on the CB doobies before the show, and we didn't. So now we're falling apart at the end of the show.
Yeah,
guys, don't forget to go check them out. They're freaking amazing. And also, Phoenix Shaving. I'm still cleaning my body with that soap, man. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. But more importantly, go to UFOGaragePC.com. You can find all of our cool t-shirts.
All our episodes.
All of our episodes are on there. There's some pictures of our faces and
our butts.
Yeah, and our butts. So
yeah, and I mean, I would love to add a blog post for images as soon as possible for this episode, because I feel like it needs it.
Definitely.
There's got to be some visuals for a part, whatever 16 it is going to be. So.
Absolutely, man. Well, all right, dude. That's about it for me.
Yeah, dude. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm falling apart at the seams, but
yep, me too. This was another episode of UFO Garage. Talk to you next time. Peace.